here that's helped put this annual town meeting together. It is May 7th. Calling the meeting to order. I declare that we do have a quorum, which is 50 people in this town. Declare that the warrant has been properly served and returned to the clerk's office. And you can check with the clerk if you ever wanted to verify that. At this point in time, I would ask you to all stand, remove your hat, and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Many of you may have noticed that this is going to be the final meeting here in this auditorium. We'll have more about that in just a moment. Is that applause that we're going to have a new building or that this one's over?
Mr. Moderator, is your microphone on?
No, it's not.
Can't hear you.
So nobody ever says they can't hear. I want to go over the ground rules. How's that, Jack? I want to go over the ground rules for the meeting. First, I'd like to start with the idea or the notice to you that I'm conflicted out on Article 45, which relates to the water district, and there is an article that relates to the water district. And for that reason, because I'm also the moderator of the water district, I'm going to recuse myself of that particular article. The town charter provides that I am allowed to appoint, subject to your ratification, a deputy moderator to serve in my place when I'm unavailable. So at this point in time, I would offer to you Mr. Thomas Bodkin. Tom served for many years on the planning board. He and I went over the rules of procedure that are covered in town meeting time. I know that he read some of it because he was asking me questions about it this morning, so I think he's well prepared to handle that. So subject to a voice vote on your behalf, I would ask you to allow me to appoint Thomas Bodkin as my deputy moderator. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Tom. When we get to that article, we'll allow you to take over and have all the fun that I always have. Please remove your hats when you're indoors in the presence of the American flag. Considered to be respectful. Turn off all your noisemakers, those are your cell phones, your beepers, and the like. That would include all noise makers that are not appropriate for civil debate. That's booing, hissing, hollering, hooting, etc. A little clapping for the auditorium, I suppose, is quite appropriate. All comments, questions, etc. really should be addressed to me, and I will seek the answer for you from the board, the committee, the moving party. Please don't refer to people specifically by their names, but instead refer to the previous speaker, the moving party, the member of the select board, the member of the finance committee, etc. So all of your comments should be at the microphone so that everybody can be heard. They have one up front, if that's easier for you. We have two in the aisles on either side. Just line up in front of the microphone. I will call on you as I see you, but understand that I may interrupt the flow of the microphones in order to ask again somebody from the moving party, from the finance, from the selectmen, etc. and so on, the town manager office. The moving party will speak first after an article has been read and seconded, etc. Anybody who's up at the microphone should try to keep their comments and questions more brief. I will allow you to speak a second time after you're up at the microphone, but understand that there's other people behind you who have not had a chance to speak. You should really defer and let those other people have their opportunity. Amendments to articles, unless they're extremely simple, really should be on these forms that Kathy always leaves out at the microphone and that she didn't do this time out at the microphone. So the town manager, who serves many hats, is graciously willing to put some out at the microphones should that be necessary. If it's simple, we can obviously report it. But if it's going to be a little bit more complicated, we want to make sure that we get your amendments correct. And by the way, as I was talking to Mr. Bodkin, you need to understand about amendments. So there's a move, the article is moved, then there's an amendment, Then somebody sometimes wants to amend the amendment, which is perfectly fine. Perhaps the person that offered the amendment simply will accept that amendment. Otherwise, you have 2 layers of amendments. You really want to stick to, and the rules require, there's only 2 layers of amendments. You really can't get into something where there's 4 layers of amendments to a moving article. So if that happens, kind of roll it back and vote on the amendments as they were put forth. Moving the question, which is basically cutting off debate, must be done by 2/3 vote. It must be done at the microphone, and we do not just stand up as we did many years ago and shout out to move the question. And the moderator reserves the right to not allow that to be moved if the moderator believes there are just too many people with too much to say or wish to be heard. And this is a very democratic process. This is your opportunity to really participate. And we don't want people to come here hoping to speak and address something and then to be cut off. Every article of motion is put to a voice vote first. I'll declare whether it has won or lost. If you don't believe me, and I've never been wrong, 7 people have to stand up and say, I doubt it. And if 7 people do, then we will count by hand. And all of you should have a card. If you don't have a card, you have to go out and get one, because that's how we're going to count by hand. We know that you're a registered voter. If you're not a voter, if you're a guest rather to this town, you should be sitting over here on my right in the front where you see some of these distinguished looking people that are over there. Reconsideration of a vote that we've already taken is allowed. Either party, the winner or the loser, can ask that something be reconsidered. However, if you're going to reconsider something, you can't do it after everybody has left. So if your article was passed or failed, and then the whole room leaves, which sometimes happens, you can't ask for reconsideration when there's a different mix in the room. So it has to be done fairly soon after the article has been passed or failed. This town conducts its business according to town meeting times. I lost my book last year for Roger Klein to bring it home with me. Anybody finds a blue one, please let me know. This is the one that belongs to the Board of Selectmen. I don't think it's ever been opened. The pages don't look like mine has. You can see that we have donuts and coffees that are being provided by the Ladies Club, and they're out there, and we very much appreciate that they're here. Now's a good time to come on. If we're not here all day, we will, at 11 o'clock, be providing sandwiches. So if you're still hungry from your not eating enough donuts, around 11 o'clock, just go out, grab your sandwich. You're welcome to eat it here. We always say to keep it clean and pick up the place, but then again, we're not going to use it too many more times. So if you don't see this, I'm on a roll, Captain. Thank you. As we have in the past, and I assume unless I hear any objection, all the articles will be up on the side walls. And some of them are rather lengthy, especially when you get into the zoning planning board. So I will, unless I hear an objection at any time, readers, moving parties, will simply refer to what's on the board. We expect that the shorter ones, most of the articles will be read in their entirety, but when we get to the larger, more complicated matters, they will simply be referred to the things that are on the projector. So at this point in time, I believe we're ready to begin the meeting, and so I return to Mr. Alonzo. Oh, Mr. Toll, my mistake.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 be passed by consent.
Second?
There's a second. Okay. So, articles that are on the consent calendar are this. These are revolving funds. The Selectmen and the Finance Committee have already discussed it. They have many times. But these are things that are not going to get any objection as far as they are concerned. Doesn't mean you have to believe them, but if that's the situation as it has been in the past. So I'm going to read each article, tell you what it is, and at that point in time, if you have an issue with any of these revolving funds, you should say hold, and we'll come back and we'll put that in the regular warrant, and we'll debate it at that point in time. At the end of the 6 that I've read, unless we've heard any holds, we'll vote on the consent calendar in its entirety. So Article 1 on the consent calendar is the ambulance billing revolving fund. Article 2 on the consent calendar is the timber rights revolving fund. Article 3, the custodial special detail revolving fund. Article 4, the green thumb revolving fund. Article 5, the library revolving fund. And Article 6, the Council on Aging Montechusett Area Regional Transit Revolving Fund. Hearing no holds, I'll declare we're ready to vote on the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 7 is now before you.
Mr. Moderator,
Keep us up.
I move that the town vote to hear and accept the regular written reports of the town officers and committees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a report? I believe there is. Bertha?
Thank you, Mike, for reviewing my attending.
You're gonna need to pick up that microphone. If they can't hear me, they can't hear you.
Hello?
Hello. I'm Greg Berkey. I live at 1084 Mass Ave, which is right across the street, and I'm chairman of the school committee at the moment. I'm here today to, as Mr. Moderator noted a moment ago, close out this building. This is the last time we'll have town meeting in this auditorium, and it's great because when we have 45 articles, it'll be much easier to keep a quorum with the comfortable seats in our new building. So I think that's very great news. This is also signaling the end of the time when graduation speeches will talk about people dancing through the halls, avoiding buckets, collecting water, and rain falling in classrooms due to melting snow. And we're all happy to have those things happen. But it's important for us to remember now that about 60 years ago, in 1955, the town voted to appropriate $1 million to build this building. That doesn't seem like much to us now, but that was a huge sum of money at the time. And that $1 million didn't just build a building. Keep in mind, that was the middle of the Cold War. That built a bomb shelter. So this building has had multiple purposes over the years. Some of them are great and glorious and forward-looking, like educating students, but some definitely reflected the time that the building was built. It was upgraded, updated, and added to in 1960, so only 5 years after it was built, it was necessary to put an addition on this building. We don't expect that to happen with our new building. This building has been the home and place for learning and coming to adulthood for 7,000 students from Bloomberg. And it served over 4 million apparently delicious school lunches, Superintendent assured me, over the past 60 years. So I think as we say goodbye to this building, it's important to remember those people in the community 60 years ago who committed to the future of the community, to building a facility that would serve for a long time. The people of Bloomberg, they were successful. I think this has been a great home for our community. I'm not sorry to say goodbye to it. I'm sure there aren't many people in the room, but I want to make sure everybody knows that the beautiful paintings of the sun and the moon that you're missing here today, I'm sure, will be in the new building for you to enjoy for the next 50 or 60 years. So I want to say thank you to the community for building a new building that we'll all start to enjoy come June. It's very new now. Thank you.
Are there any other reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next article, Article 8.
I move that the town vote to pass over Article 8.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Tell me why we're passing it over, Mr. Alonso.
This was a placeholder for any unpaid bills from prior years, and we have none.
All those in favor of passing over, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article number 9.
I move that the town vote to transfer from line 13 reserve fund the sum of $75,000 and from line 14 unemployment expense the sum of $10,000 and to transfer to line 13A salary reserve fund the sum of $15,000 and to line 30 legal expenses the sum of $60,000 and to line 49 wiring inspector the sum of $10,000 to amend the amounts voted under Article 15 of the May 2nd, 2015 annual town meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectman, your recommendation?
The selectmen recommend approval.
Thank you. FinCom,
Finance Committee recommends approval.
and I believe the town manager is going to make the presentation.
Correct.
I will, thank you. Just a couple of slides on this one. So town meeting appropriates the annual budget by functional category, such as general government, DPW, library, unclassified. Any transfers between functional categories requires town meeting authorization, except under certain circumstances. At the end of the year, there's a provision for the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen to make some minor adjustments. So whenever possible, we like to bring any budget adjustments to town meeting for approval. This year, we only have a handful because we were very fortunate. We didn't have a difficult winter, so we're not dealing with the snow and ice budget this year, so that made things easier. As mentioned in the motion, we're looking to adjust $85,000, $75,000 from our reserve fund, $10,000 from unemployment expense, and we're looking to transfer $15,000 to the salary reserve account to help fund settlements of contracts and individual employment agreements, $60,000 to general government for legal expenses. If you've been following, we have our legal issues. We have two very large cases that have extended over a number of years. Hollis Hills, they're both related to development. The first is Hollis Hills, and that has been settled, so there won't be any additional expenses going forward on that. But we have one outstanding one, O'Brien Homes. Again, it's related to development. And in this year alone, we spent $73,000. That case actually went to trial this year. So $73,000 on a total budget of $111,000. So that was a very large expense. And then an additional $10,000 for our wiring inspector. Our inspectors, wiring and plumbing, they are paid a percentage of the fees, the permit fees, and so as their work increases, so doesn't the amount to pay them. So we're looking for $10,000 there. So again, $85,000 in total requested for transfers for fiscal 16.
Seeing no one at the microphone, I'll declare that we're ready to vote. This is a simple majority on the budget adjustments. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Article 10 is what?
I move the town will vote to transfer from Article 15 of the May 2nd, 2015 annual town meeting, line 13 reserve fund, the sum of $10,000 to fund a market analysis of municipal buildings, Brooks House, Ritter Memorial, Town Hall, and the old primary buildings in FY16. Board of Selectmen recommend approval.
Is there a second? Second. Finance Committee.
We recommend approval.
You've already said the selectmen recommend approval. Mr. Toll, you're going to make a presentation on building reuse?
Yes, as the chair of the Building Reuse Committee, we're recommending the town funds $10,000 to study market analysis of excess buildings as a result of the study that the Building Reuse Department committee made. That money will come from a reserve fund, and we're asking to do this in order to develop a feasible reuse strategy for the state, for the sale of town buildings, to contribute to forwarding the newly created Village Center District by targeting private investment into these buildings that will support greater economic activity and to support economic growth as a whole. The idea being that we would bring the study group up to speed by looking at the current buildings that will be surplus. We'll look at the economic demographics of the town, and then finally to analyze the value of those buildings, not just as they currently stand, but as their potential use. This is in order for us to come back to town meeting, hopefully by next town meeting, to be able to say that the revenue from such further use will be used to fund any renovation to the proposed use of the T.C. Passios building as a municipal building going forward.
Questions from Mr. Toll?
Actually, I have points of order.
Okay, so hold on a second. When you come up, you have to introduce yourself and where you live. And then you
I'm
want to
Shelley Ford, 53 Pleasant Street.
Say it again. hear reports on Article 7. We heard the report. I don't think we had to vote again to accept the report. We just had to hear it. But thank you, appreciate it. On Article 10, please. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I'll declare the
Florida.
You gotta be at the microphone, Mr. Rogers, appreciate it.
David Rogers, 82 Highland Street. Speak up. I'm a bit confused because the article reads for a market analysis, and my experience with real estate for over 40 years, a market analysis is to survey the market to determine the value of a particular piece of property using comparable sales. This article really expands that a great deal and is much more than just a market analysis. So I'm wondering how we're going to get everything done that's listed here for $10,000. And aren't we really looking for an appraisal rather than a market analysis?
Mr. Rogers, the market analysis is intended to include an appraisal. However, an appraisal would just be an appraisal with comparable values for the buildings as they are utilized today. The market analysis is intended to take that appraisal, but to build upon it and to use an analysis of what properties could be used for in a creative way, taking into consideration the fact that the town has voted the village district. The town does have a goal of economic development, and we are trying to attract creative uses of the center of town to support this process. We plan to put this out to bid. We do have interest from people who have claimed that they would be willing to do this analysis and capable of doing this analysis. And what we're expecting is a detailed, fact-filled report on not only an appraisal of what the physical structures are worth, but what the potential market is, so that we can then make decisions based on reuse of those buildings in a way that's appropriate to the town and supports the town center goals, and also provides funding for any renovation to the future municipal building.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm going to tell you $10,000 to appraise 4 properties is woefully inadequate. And for the record, in terms of an appraisal, there are 3 components of determining the value: the comparable sales, the cost approach, which determines how much it would cost to replicate the building, and the income approach. And I submit to you that each and every one of these buildings, well, probably not the Brooks House, but the other 3 are very, very difficult to comp, because I don't know of any sales around, and I don't know how you put a value on the property. So I think it's more intense. But if you could do it at $10,000, God bless you, and I look forward to seeing the complexity of this analysis and the values that are derived from it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Anyone else on Article 10? Seeing none, I'll declare we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Article 10, market analysis of municipal buildings, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 11, Mr. Alonso.
I move the town vote to transfer from Article 15 of the May 2nd, 2015 annual town meeting, line 1380, salary reserve fund, the sum of $3,611.32 to fund the first year of the fiscal 2015 to fiscal 2017 Lunenburg Professional Firefighters PFFM Local 4358A Collective Bargaining Agreement dated July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectman, your recommendation.
The selectmen recommend approval.
Finance,
We recommend approval.
tell us about the article, Mr. Alonso.
The town manager will give a short presentation about
Short
it.
presentation. Ms. LaFleur.
Thank you. This, as was mentioned, this is a 3-year agreement. It covers 3 full-time employees. The pertinent aspects of the agreement are there's a 1.5% cost of living adjustment per year in this contract. There is a provision in the contract for EMTs. We currently run an intermediate ambulance service. The state is going to convert intermediate or not allow intermediate and only allow advanced or basic. We're hoping to go to advanced so that we can provide a higher level of ambulance service to the community. As we transition to this, this contract allows for an increased stipend for employees who carry the EMT advanced certification, as we have a stipend for the ones who carry the intermediate certification. So that stipend will increase from 3% to 5% upon the new certification. The request this morning is for town meeting to authorize the first year of the 3-year contract in the amount as previously mentioned, and this will be funded through the existing salary reserve account.
Any questions for Ms. LaFleur on Article 11? Go right ahead, sir.
Ed Littlejohn, 87 Old Farm Road. I'd just like some clarification. In the early handouts, it says to raise and appropriate or transfer. Now we're seeing these say only transfer. Does that mean raise and appropriate are no longer part of the proposed article?
Please.
So it is a request to transfer. When you see raise and appropriate, you can think new money. So if we were looking to raise new money to fund this, we would raise and appropriate. But a transfer is a request to transfer from an existing appropriation to the salary reserve account.
Thank you. I understand that. The difference is the phraseology that was in the prior handout and what's being presented today. So no longer are we looking at raising, we're looking simply at transferring because you changed the word. Is that correct?
That's correct. When we put the warrant article together, we put in as much language as we think we might need. And as we get closer to town meeting and we realize we can just transfer, we're just looking to transfer.
Thank you.
Excellent question. Anyone else on Article 11? Seeing none, I'll declare we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Article 11, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now, somebody with a green Jeep parked in the parking lot may need to borrow my jumper cables when they leave because they have left their lights on. So if you have a green Jeep in the parking lot, you might want to go and shut your lights off up there. Article 12, DPW contract, Mrs. Bertram.
I move that the town vote to pass over Article 12.
Is there a second? Second. Tell us why we're passing it over, Mrs. Bertram.
This is for the DPW employees collective bargaining agreement, and no agreement has been reached.
All those in favor of Article 12, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 13, police contract.
I move that the town vote to pass over Article 13.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Toll, why are we passing it over?
This is the IBPO collective bargaining agreement for police, and no agreement has been reached.
Thank you. All those in favor of passing over Article 13, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 14, Mr. Toll, capital planning.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $349,023.05 and to transfer the sum of $1,369.59 from Article 16 of the May 5, 2012 annual town meeting and $2,364.70 from Article 14 of the May 4th, 2013 annual town meeting and $12,817.66 from Article 14 of the May 3rd, 2014 annual meeting, and $3,900 from Article 14 of the May 2nd, 2015 annual meeting, and transfer from free cash the sum of $250,000 for a total appropriation of $619,475 to fund the FY17 capital plan as appearing in the capital planning report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen, your recommendation.
The selectmen recommend approval of this article.
Thank you. Finance.
Finance Committee recommends approval in the amount of $619,475.
The amount that he just read in the article, correct?
That's correct.
Same amount. Thank you very much. Is there going to be a presentation, Mr. Toll?
Yes, the town manager will go through the figures.
Ms. LaFleur.
Thank you. If you're having trouble reading the slide that's up on the wall, it is the same document that is on page 4 of your warrant, so you could refer to that as well. There were 12 items that were recommended by our capital planning committee. The capital planning committee is a citizen committee made up of representatives from the planning board, board of selectmen, finance committee, and 2 members at large. They begin their work in the fall prior to the upcoming budget season. They review in detail all capital requests that are submitted by the departments, and they decide which items they believe are most worthy of funding in any given year, and they rank them in priority order. And then as we get closer to the budget process and we realize, or if we have a better idea of how much money we have available to fund capital, we match their priorities up with the existing funding. So 10 of the 12 items that they recommended are being presented to you for funding today. The first is 2 police vehicles. Second, 29 bulletproof vests for the police department. The third priority is a phone system replacement at Turkey Hill Middle School. The fourth is for an intercom replacement at Turkey Hill Middle School. The fifth is for some bridge work for the Townsend Harbor Road Bridge. 6, a catch basin cleaner attachment. 7, replacement of a 6-wheel dump truck used for plowing and sanding. 8 is replacement of a 1-ton plow truck for the DPW. 9, technology for town departments. And 10 is a pickup replacement for the fire department. Again, the total is $619,475. The new money used to fund this through raise and appropriate, and it is a cash outlay, is $349,023. We're looking to reappropriate from prior year unspent capital the amount of $20,452, and then an additional appropriation of $250,000 from free cash.
Questions about the capital improvement plan? Seeing no one at the microphone, declare we're ready to vote. Article 14, all those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Article 15, Mr. Ebersol, the budget.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate $32,784,764.24. Transfer $10,868 from septic receipts reserve for appropriation. Transfer $912,291.76 from the sewer enterprise fund. Transfer $31,623 from the student transportation offset receipt fund. And transfer $62,781 from water betterment revenue to defray the charges and expenses of the town for fiscal year 2017 of $33,802,328, and to fix the salaries and compensation of all elected officials of the town and any other items included in the budget of the town manager.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen, your recommendation.
The selectmen recommend approval.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends approval in the amount of $33,802,328 as stated in the article.
Thank you very much. I assume there's going to be a presentation, Ms. LaFleur?
Yes. So, just to give you an idea of the budget process, if you are new to following town government, the budget is put together over a very lengthy period. It begins back in November or December when we put together a trends monitoring report and a financial forecast. So we look at what has occurred in the past and what we can project going forward from that. From the financial forecast, budget targets are identified for each of the departments. And we do that in December, and then in December and January, the departments put their budget requests together. They submit them to me, and then I put together a recommendation in February that is presented to the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee reviews in great detail that budget recommendation in February and March. The Finance Committee will make its recommendation on the budget either at the end of March or the very beginning of April, and then we present it to you in May at town meeting. So in the warrant on pages 23 through 28 is a detailed copy of the line item budget. We also put together a salmon colored handout, and I would ask if you're following along that you follow the handout. And the reason that I asked that is we were looking at the warrant yesterday and we realized that one of the pages was put in there twice, and somehow a total was hidden from the total on one of the pages. So the totals are the same, but if you follow along on the salmon colored handout where the moderator goes through the budget, you'll be sure to get everything exactly as it's being presented.
You also point out, Mrs. Laura, that if they're following from the warrant that was you brought, or was mailed to you, there's no number in 72A, total facilities. That number will be mentioned when we get to that part of the article, but you should make sure that you're looking at your salmon colored. That's where the actual numbers are. 72A, which is total facilities, somehow there was no entry made on the one that was mailed to you. It should read $607,217. On the one that was mailed to you, the white one, if that's the one you call.
So just overall, this budget, it funds all of our contractual salary increases. The budget targets that were presented to the departments during the process are generally what has been recommended for funding here this morning. The budget meets all of our financial policies, and specifically, it meets the policy that requires that we maintain our stabilization fund at 5%. So that's very important to our bond rating agencies. And this obviously is a balanced budget proposal, and it does not use any free cash or stabilization fund to fund any of the operational expenses, and that's important as well. So we'll spend a few minutes going through revenues. We have 4 sources of revenue available to us. Property tax, which is the majority of how our budget is funded. It funds 66% of our budget. Our next largest category is state aid, and that funds 21% of our budget, or just under $8 million. Local receipts represents 8% of our budget, or $2.8 million. And then finally, available funds supports 5% of our budget. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about each of these categories in a bit of detail so that you understand how we come up with the projections that we made. So property tax, there's a formula to determine what we're able to collect. We take the prior year base and we increase that by 2.5%, which is what is allowed to us. It's the maximum amount allowed under Proposition 2.5. And that 2.5% will raise an additional $526,000 in fiscal 17. And then we take an estimate for new growth, and we're estimating $300,000, and I'll talk about that in a bit more detail on the next slide. Then we add to the base plus the 2.5% plus the new growth. We would add in any overrides if there were any approved, and we don't have any approved overrides. Next, we add in debt exclusions, and we do have debt exclusions. We have the debt exclusion for the new middle school, high school. We have a debt exclusion for the library, for the primary school, and for the public safety building. So the additional tax that we add for all of those debt exclusions in fiscal 17 is $2,714,000. $1,893,000 of that is for the new middle school, high school, and that has an impact on the average single family tax bill of $405.51. And then the balance of $821,000 is for the library, the primary school, and the public safety building. So in total, we're looking to raise $24,579,642 in property tax in fiscal 17, and that is a 4.49% increase. So this one might be a little difficult to see, but I wanted to provide a bit more detail on how we came up with the estimate of $300,000 for new growth, because that's a bit higher than what we've seen in, not in the current year, but in prior years. So we are benefiting from a financial perspective of some increased growth in fiscal 17. And you can see, I won't go through each of these, but you can see, based on what we think will happen by the close of this year, that we'll actually have $322,000 versus $300,000 in new growth. So we have a little bit of a cushion there, and that's something that can potentially be adjusted at a fall town meeting. Next, state aid. This is a tough one for us because our budget process runs a little faster than the state's budget process, so we have to make some assumptions on what we believe will be available to us through state aid. The governor is the first to issue the budget on the state level, and he issues his budget at the end of January. So we are well into our budget process by the end of January, but it is helpful for us to receive the governor's budget because that gives us a good indication of what we might see. So originally, I did not include as much in my recommendation for Chapter 70, which is education aid from the state, because it seemed it was much higher than what we had received in prior years. It was actually $291,593 higher. But now that we have both the governor's budget proposal and the House budget that has a higher level of Chapter 70 education aid for the town of Lunenburg in, I've included that in my budget. And the reason that it is higher is because the governor's proposal includes a 70% reduction of over effort. This is a very complicated subject. I'm not going to get into it in too much detail, but the bottom line is, according to the state formula, state aid formula, Lunenburg pays more of its share for educational costs locally. Right now, there is a 50% reduction in our over effort contribution, and in 17 there will be a 70% reduction, which is why we will receive more aid from the state. So that's good news. We will see an increase of 4.3%, or about $42,000 in unrestricted general government aid, which used to be known as lottery aid. So if you've been following the budget process, you may know that as lottery aid. We will still, even with that increase, be 23% lower than where we were in fiscal 2009. We had about and that would be about $300,000. So this is one of the reasons that our budget, it's been very difficult to fund any increases in the budget because we've lost such a large chunk of state aid from the lottery or unrestricted general government aid. We will see, or we do expect to see funding for the 40S Smart Growth. This is additional educational aid that the town receives as a result of the 40R development, which is our Tri-Town landing development. So we receive additional aid there. So overall, the increase in state aid is 5.58%, or just under $8 million. This one I'm sure is very difficult to read, but the bottom right-hand corner, if you're looking at it the way that I'm looking at it, where it says $54,856. Right now, based on the budget, the governor's budget and the House budget, just for state aid, the governor's budget and the House budget, they're different in a lot of ways, but in terms of aid to municipalities, we will be getting $54,856 more than what's been included in this budget. So again, an additional opportunity to make an adjustment at fall town meeting if something else doesn't come our way. In terms of local receipts, we should see an increase of $158,000 or 5.87%. The biggest parts of our local receipts are our motor vehicle excise tax, which was up 14.5% or $165,000 in fiscal 16 over fiscal 15. So that's good news. I have provided for an increase of 5% in fiscal 17. Most of the other categories will see a projected increase of 2%, with the exception of our ambulance revenue. We expect to see an increase of $47,000. Local options meals tax, an increase of almost $20,000. And then I wanted to make mention of our solar net metering credits. This is for the solar project that is on Chase Road that brings $120,000 into the general fund on an annual basis. Available funds is the final category. These can be one-time revenues. Our recurring revenues right now are our SBA reimbursement, which is the state reimbursement for the existing primary school, water and sewer betterments, indirect revenues we receive for indirect costs charged back to enterprise funds. Anytime we use free cash, that's an available fund, and our unexpended prior year capital articles would be included here as well. So in total, for revenues, we will see an increase of $1,758,413, which is just under 5% for fiscal 17. So next, on to expenditures. Obviously, we are a service provider organization, and the demand for the services that the town provides doesn't necessarily decrease because of lack of funding. Our budget is appropriated into a handful of different categories. We've made appropriations to departments. We have non-appropriated costs, which are charges that the town incurs for services provided by other entities, generally by the state. So the state provides some services to the town. We have transportation provided by a regional transportation authority. Those are non-appropriated costs. We have 3 enterprise funds, and then we have to account for any other warrant articles with a financial impact. This is a picture of all of our spending in fiscal 17. The largest portion of spending is for education at 51%, followed by debt service, which is 13%, employee benefits at 10%, public safety at 7.35%, public works at 6.21%, and then some of our smaller spending categories. So when I put the budget together, I divide all of the requests for funding into 3 categories. We have non-discretionary expenditures, we have discretionary expenditures, and then we have something in between where we may have a mandate to provide the service or a responsibility to provide the service, but we have some flexibility in how we can provide the service. So that's how I categorize the expenditures, and I'll present them to you in that order. So under non-discretionary, first we have debt service. Debt service is the commitments that we have made for borrowing in prior years, and these are the payments that we have to make in the current fiscal year. So we have a total projected debt service expenditure in fiscal 17 of $4,856,000. That is an increase of $219,000. It includes the debt service that we incurred in the last 2 fiscal years for capital. We chose to borrow for some capital items. It includes the debt service for the new middle school, high school, and at this point in time, we have borrowed $33.625 million. So the spreadsheet below shows how we pay that debt service, the different categories. So we have the exempt debt, which we talked about earlier, of $2.7 million. We have debt that's associated with water and sewer betterment projects, and that debt service is paid for through water and sewer betterments. We have reimbursement that we receive from the state, the Municipal Building Authority. And then we're left with the debt service that has an impact, the net impact to the general fund budget in the amount of $683,491. So this is the amount that essentially competes with all of the other departments for funding in the fiscal year. This is a graph that shows our existing debt service. The blue is the non-exempt debt. The red is the exempt debt. So if you have been following Board of Selectmen's meetings or Finance Committee meetings, you may have heard them talk a lot about the drop in exempt debt service in fiscal 2024. So you can see in fiscal 17, which is the highest mark, our debt service peaks in fiscal 17 and it goes down thereafter, but it drops significantly in 2024. So as the Selectmen and the Finance Committee have been talking about the other needs of the community, there's been a lot of talk about trying to wait until we can get to fiscal 2024 because of that drop. The next category of expenditures is unclassified. This represents about 10% of the budget, and the biggest item here is insurances. Whether it's health insurance for active employees, retired employees, our workers' comp insurance, or our liability insurance, all of these together represent about 10% of our budget. So the biggest issue we have is we're facing a 12.8% increase in health insurance. We have been the beneficiary of very good loss ratios over the last several years. We did have an increase in the current fiscal year. We're seeing a much bigger increase in fiscal 17 due to a poor 24-month loss ratio run. So this increase in health insurance for the municipal departments, it represents an increase of $178,000. And for the school, it was an additional increase of $158,000. And this is something that comes to us really at the very end of our budget process, at the mid to end February. So it's difficult for us to be able to incorporate large increases in health insurance coming at the very end. We were able to do it within the municipal departments, and the superintendent will talk a little bit about how that's going to impact the school. The third category is our retirement assessments, and I wanted to spend a minute on this, and we haven't necessarily looked at this data as a town meeting body before, but I think it's important because every once in a while we see a story on the news or in the newspaper about some ridiculous pension that some public official is collecting, and it's very upsetting. And I think it's important to realize what most pensioners receive through their pension. So we are part of Worcester Regional Retirement System. The town of Lunenburg has 118.59 active members. I don't know who that 59 is, but I feel sorry for him or her. The average age of our group is 50.3 years. The average age in Worcester Regional is 48.2. So our group as a whole is a little bit more mature than the Worcester Regional group. We have a few more years of service too. Our group has an average of 12.1 years, and Worcester Regional 10.5 years. The average salary of our active employees is a little bit less than the average of the Worcester Regional Retirement System. The average salary is $37,413. So for retired members, we have 78.00. The average age is 73.5, which is a little bit younger than the average age of a retiree in the Worcester Regional Retirement System. And the average pension received by a retiree from Lunenburg is $16,582, which is a little bit less than what is received from the average retiree under the system as a whole. We have a total of 8 disabled retirees, and we have a total of 43 inactive people. That means people who were employed by the town, who were eligible to be in the pension system when they were here, but they've left employment, but they've chosen to keep their retirement with the retirement system. I would imagine in the hopes that they'll go back and work for a municipality, then they would be able to retire. This spreadsheet shows the costs associated with each of our classes of employees, active, retirees. It shows the accrued liability and the unfunded accrued liability. I think that the most important part is on the bottom, the fiscal 17 assessment. The assessment in total is $1,072,029. We receive a discount if we pay that early, and by saying early, that means we pay it at the beginning of the fiscal year, which we do. And so we are able to take advantage of the early payment discount and pay $1,051,795. This assessment is 8.7% higher than the current year, or an increase of $87,761. So then we move into this next category, the middle category, where we have a requirement to provide services, but we have some flexibility in how we provide them. All the municipal departments are generally funded at their target, which generally means they're level funded, or they'll provide a similar level of service or status quo. There are no increases in personnel and public safety. I make a note that even though I don't think anybody could argue that we need additional public safety personnel, we need to do a full analysis of current and future costs so that we know if we're adding public safety personnel, what the full cost is. And when I say that, maybe that sounds strange to you, but we really need to get a better handle on the pension liability. We know what it is in the aggregate, but to be able to say for any one employee what that is, we have a very difficult time getting that data. So it's not that we don't know in the aggregate, it's just difficult. If you want to say you hire somebody today, what's their current cost, their current salary, current benefit cost, and then their future costs. The pension piece is a little difficult for us right now. The pavement management program within the budget is underfunded, but we do have something to present to you under Article 26. I also make mention of the fact that stormwater management is going to become an increasing area of interest for us, an increasing liability, and that's something that we need to pay attention to. The school is generally funded at, or the target for the school was originally $312,000 less than what the superintendent and school committee recommended. With the addition of that extra Chapter 70, we're much closer for my recommendation to match the school recommendation, but there's still a little bit of issue there. And I will let the superintendent, with the permission of the moderator, just speak of that for a few moments, and then I will come back and finish up the presentation.
Come on up, Ms. Collins. Our superintendent. Presenting for the last time in the auditorium.
This auditorium.
So we wanted to start here because this building, you know, it was decommissioned with the kind words of our school committee chair just a few minutes ago. The students are also having a decommissioning ceremony. I think next week is when they're going to do theirs. And as soon as we finish school, the fence will literally flip, and this will become the construction zone. And once the boxes are moved over to the new building that our teachers have been packing up, then the asbestos abatement will start in here, and then the building will come down and fields will be put in. So when we come back to school next fall, due to the amazing support of this community for its students and their education, the new co-located Lunenburg Middle High School for grades 6 through 8 and 9 through 12 will be open. And throughout the summer, you as citizens will have the opportunity, we'll have guided tours of the facility so you can get into the facility and see that school. I hope you've followed the construction process. It's just been a real joy, and we are so excited about the opportunities that this brings, and thank you once again for providing it for our students. Our primary school will return to serving students pre-K through grade 2, and Turkey Hill Elementary School will serve students in grades 3 through 5. And just so you know, the population of the district will stay right at 1,600 students. Our projections are for 375 students at the primary school, 400 students in grades 3 through 5. In 6 through 8, 380 students. And at the 9 through 12 grades, 430 students. This is an overview of our configuration now as we move into three buildings with 4 schools. I want to tell you that with regard to this, our administrative offices and personnel remain at the same number as we currently have in the district at this point in time. There is a shift of 1 more principal, but 1 less assistant principal. We continue to share technology expertise with the town, our network director, as well as the technician, our shared positions, as well as the technology director itself. We have recommended and put into the budget a position that's called the School Technology Coordinator. And that position will support the extensive opportunities that are in the new building, as well as which are being spread across the rest of the district. All of the technology from this building will be repurposed down to the elementary and to the primary school. So all those investments of media carts and those kinds of technology investments that were present in this building are being repurposed. And we've worked very hard throughout this process to make sure that whatever we can, we're reusing, we're repurposing to other areas, or we're repurposing outside our community. Hopeful around that as I see what's happening at the state level relative to the 40S support, as well as also the support we're seeing with regard to special education. The 86,000 that we're a part right now, we are looking at right now the opportunities of returning more students to our district who are already being served outside because we're building capacity within the district. And that capacity will allow us to have those educational programs here on site. And I'm very hopeful. We've been doing this for the last couple of years, and over that period of time, we have been able to return at least 10 students to the district, and we have been able to maintain students in the district who would have otherwise have needed an outside placement as well. And so that's really important for our community in terms of having those services available for all our students. And it's also important in terms of our budget and being able to make sure that we continue to provide opportunities across the board for all our students. We are adding a 3rd grade teacher because of increased enrollment. We added 2 teachers last year because of increased enrollment. And so we are restoring part-time a position that we didn't feel for
PE teacher 2 years ago. There was a retirement. We didn't fill that at that time, but that we need to return that position to our buildings, but it will come back as a part-time. We want to make sure that we're providing the expertise and the support for our teachers and our students around the technology program. So we have indicated that we're going to add a technology teacher to enhance opportunities. We have an office at the middle high school that will have one administrative secretary, one secretary, and it serves both the middle school and the high school. The office will serve both of those schools, and so we've suggested an office clerk. The technology coordinator I talked about before, in order to make sure that all of those wonderful technology opportunities that are within the new building, we're able to maximize. We're moving more and more to a blended learning environment. It's not about replacing teachers, but it's about expanding the opportunities for our students in this 21st century to ensure that they have the skills, which are now more and more cloud-based online. We also have in that new building a design lab and a fabrication lab. We want to make sure the building's well maintained, so we're adding a custodian to ensure that there's an appropriate level of care. And as mentioned before, the health insurance increase adds to the 5.46% increase that we've requested, as well as we saw an increase in our transportation bid this year. So that's an overview of the school budget.
Before we leave education, I realized I forgot to mention our Monty Tech assessment will increase $100,000 in fiscal 17. Due to an increased enrollment, we will see an additional 13 students enrolled in vocational education through Monty Tech in fiscal 17. And now we're into the home stretch of the budget. In the police department, we're looking at level staffing 15 full-time and 14 full-time and 14 reserves, an overall increase of just over 2%, and that increase is to cover salary increases and some additional overtime to meet service demands, as well as we have one other officer that is now eligible for the educational incentive. Similar in the fire department, an overall increase of about $25,000 to cover salary increases and some additional overtime. In our emergency dispatch, we are a member of the Neshoba Valley Regional Dispatch District. We are a founding member. We will actually see a decrease in our assessment in fiscal 17 of $21,000, and this is due to the inclusion of the fifth community, well, 4.5, right? We have Devens is a half. The increase of Bolton. So this is very exciting for us. When we first started the district, we had our 4 members, and we knew we had the capacity to go up to 6 comfortably with the space that we had, with the equipment that we had, the bandwidth. And so we now have all 6 members. We're phasing in 5, well actually 5 phased in this spring. And then about a year from now, we will phase in the 6th one. So going into fiscal 18, we should see a similar reduction of about $20,000 as a result of the addition of the town of Berlin. And the reason is because when we set up this district, one of the things that we decided was that each member would pay an equal share of the district's costs. So this is a very favorable for the town of Lunenburg. We are the largest member. We bring the most business to the regional dispatch district, but we pay the same cost as the community that brings the smallest amount of business. What we have done, or what we plan to do with this increase, is to funnel it back into public safety so that we can do some other things in public safety that we haven't been able to do. For instance, we have a desk officer position within public safety. This is a uniformed officer who has all of the powers and duties of any of the officers that patrol. But this person is stationed at the desk to take reports and complaints, and we can operate more efficiently with having a uniformed officer there. This person can also oversee the lockup, so that when we have guests in our lockup, which we do frequently, and it's very costly for us to have people there because we have to bring in a uniformed officer to come and monitor the lockup. So now, when we had dispatch locally, we had civilian dispatchers, so they were not able to monitor the lockup. So now that we have a uniformed officer sitting at that desk, he or she can monitor the lockup, and it saves us the overtime cost of bringing somebody in just specifically to do that. So this has been, it was a transition for sure. We all had to learn a new way of doing business, but it's been a huge success, both operationally and financially for the town of Lunenburg. Public Works, our highway department, our road maintenance activities, parks, cemetery, facilities management, and recycling. These combined have an overall increase of about $40,000. I'd like to mention some of our energy efficiency projects and our net metering projects, which have resulted in a savings of over $200,000 to the town of Lunenburg in the last 2 years. So this is very exciting. We're adding an additional $10,000 into our stormwater management activities line. We are definitely in need of additional funding as we move forward to meet the new federal NS4 requirements. We're still analyzing what that impact will be to us, but we're trying to build up our operational budget so that we don't have a huge increase going into fiscal 18. The budget proposal fully funds all DPW authorized positions. In the past, we've had authorized positions that we did not fund, but we're funding all of the authorized positions and looking forward to having a full DPW department. We're level funding snow and ice at $275,000. That is an increase of, not an increase over 16, but an increase of over what we've had in the last couple of years, and that number seems to be pretty good for us. And we've included a slight increase in vehicle maintenance, mostly in recognition of our aging fire apparatus. We have at least one truck that really needs to be replaced. It's at the end of its useful life, and we're not at a position financially where we can replace it. So we've added a little bit more in maintenance, and we're looking toward replacement of that, I believe, in fiscal 18. Solid waste, our solid waste enterprise is part of Public Works, but it's funded through Article 18 because it is an enterprise fund, as is our sewer enterprise fund under Article 20. So this is the wrapping up the presentation. Some things that I'd like to point out that I think are bright spots in the budget this year and going forward. We've been able to increase public transportation, specifically along the Route 2A corridor. For those of you who are not aware of it, we do pay an assessment to the MBTA for the train service that is available either in Fitchburg or in Leominster. And then we up until the current year, I think we're partially serviced by MART, the Montechusett Area Regional Transportation Authority. We had some public transportation, mainly between the Walmart shopping center and into Fitchburg, into the intermodal, but we didn't have a whole lot of service anywhere other than Walmart. We were able to broaden that service at the end of last fiscal year to bring that into the center of town to connect the library, the teen center, and town hall. And we saw a very small increase in usage, mostly because if somebody can drive into the center of town, they can likely drive where they need to go. So we took that one step further, and we've We've now cut back on the service through the center of town. We still service the center of town, but not as frequently. And we've extended the MART transportation service essentially down to the Shirley border on Route 2A with specific stops at the Fairlane Mobile Home Park and the Meadowwoods Mobile Home Park, in the hopes that we'll be able to pick up some ridership there. Additionally, for anybody who is disabled, if you live within a radius of our new transportation corridor down to 2A at the Shirley line, you are eligible for public transportation through MART. And in the lobby, we have a couple of maps. One that shows what our transportation, what our corridor is, and then there's one that shows a bubble that shows if you live within that area and you are disabled, that you can take advantage of that. So if that's of interest to you, I would ask that maybe you stop and take a look at the maps on the way out to see if this might be something that would be of interest to you. We've been able to, in the Conservation Office, consolidate a contract position and a part-time position to create one position. So that's an increased efficiency and a reduction in costs. We've added a few more hours in the Assessor's Office to take a harder look at some of our new growth and taxes related to home-based businesses. So we're hoping we might be able to more accurately account for those types of operations. Been able to maintain the IT tech position, so that will be a benefit to the organization. Some of the things for the future, as I mentioned, under Article 26, we'll talk about an idea for pavement management. In 27 and 28, we'll present an idea for a funding proposal to replace the existing track and field at the high school. Additional energy efficiency projects are something we're always interested in doing. We're looking for a solution for municipal offices. As you know, Town Hall is in tough shape. We'll talk more about that under Article 31. And then the Finance Committee has been working, and the Capital Planning Committee, working hard on trying to find a long-term financing solution for some of our remaining capital articles. So just to end this, obviously today we're here to request approval of the annual budget for fiscal 17. What is still outstanding is what the final numbers will be on the state budget. If there is a change to our anticipated state aid as a result of the budget that the Senate approves and the final budget approved by the town, by the state, we will need to take that up at a fall town meeting. But at this point in time, fiscal 17 looks to be probably the best year that we've had in a number of years. Thank you.
Thank you, A couple of things before we go into the budget. There are a lot of donuts left out there. I don't want to eat most of them before we leave, so please, get yourself a donut. Sandwiches, I think they already started putting them out. Please just get up, get yourself something to eat. Come back down and participate in the conversation. I also want to note that our Finance Committee is looking for 2 new members. We go over the budget, of course, time to let you know that we do have vacancies on many town committees. There is a talent bank form that's available online at our website. But certainly, if you don't care to do it that way, just call Town Hall. We'll find a place to utilize your talents and your interests. We'll definitely need that in the Finance Committee every year. I also want to recognize that our state representative, Jennifer Benson, is here today. Jennifer, stand up, wave for people so everybody knows who you are. Thank you for all of your work in supporting our town and our budget process. So here's how we do the budget. I'm going to read down the article, the categories from the budget. And if you have something that you want to debate, discuss, ask questions about, just yell out from your seat and quote. That allows us to focus the conversation on things that people are particularly interested in. So if you have your salmon color, or if you have it from your warrant, the proposed budget is the numbers that are on the far right as you go down. So I'll read them out again. If you have something that you wish to discuss, debate, question, just yell out hold. Total maturing debt, $4,856,831. Total general government unclassified, $2,615,696. Total general government, $1,287,727. Total central purchasing, $55,303. Subtotal police, $1,442,006. Subtotal fire, $773,270. Subtotal radio watch, $273,875. Subtotal other protection, $211,860. Total protection, $2,701,011. Total health and sanitation, $69,154. Total DPW, $1,497,930. And if you're going through your white warrant, the next page is a repeat. At the top of page 28 on the white document that you received at home, total facilities building should read $607,217. Total solid waste recycling, $174,150. Subtotal council on aging, $111,945. Subtotal veterans, $105,775. Total assistance, $217,720. Total schools, $19,348,850. Hold the hold on the schools. Total library, $370,739. And that would be by category the budget. And we'll hold on the total until we come to a total vote. Anyone wishing to ask questions? Ms. LaFleur, Ms. Combs are here on the budget. Please step up to the microphone, especially the gentlemen or individuals who have large schools.
Carl, 50 Sunset Lane. Yeah, on the schools, just some concern, the increase in the schools and the school line itself, the 79, not the other parts of that, is roughly $1 million or 5.6%, which is a pretty healthy increase. And it's great if you can afford it. I'm all for it. The only thing that gives me concern is there's an assumption, hopefully a very good, and it sounds like a pretty valid assumption, but not something we take to the bank, that there's $291,000 of additional funding coming from the state when they finally resolve the budget. And I always be concerned, it'd be nice, and I hope that comes, but to assume that we're going to get it, put the costs in place that we're going to get, I'd like to know first, if we don't get the $291,000, what is the approach to reconciling that?
Ms. LaFleur?
Thank you for that question. That certainly has come up before, and I think, I didn't mention it today, I think I've been pretty clear with the Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, and with the school, that if that funding doesn't become available, then that is an issue that the school needs to resolve, that we wouldn't be looking to make additional cuts in other departments in order to fund that reduction. And that's originally why, as I mentioned, I didn't include it in my budget even after we had the governor's budget. But after it went then to the House, and the House approved it, it seemed like it was a much safer bet, and there wasn't any need to withhold that from funding for the school at this point in time.
Great, thank you, because I was confused. So it won't, just to be clear, it will not be taken out of other budgets. The school will have to manage that reduction in costs. They're not going to town meeting in the fall and ask for some more money from somewhere. That's what I heard.
Who are you asking, Mr. Long?
You, Mr. Moderator.
Well, I understand that. Would you like to ask Ms. Collins that question?
Whoever could answer, just to reconfirm, I think what I heard was that it would be the school's job to manage their budget without that 291, should they not get it.
Go ahead.
Just looking for confirmation.
So, and what I said is that would be my recommendation, and I've been clear with the finance committee, with the board of selectmen, and with the school committee. I obviously only make recommendations to this body, but that would be my recommendation.
So I think that's great. I have a lot of confidence in the town manager that 291 would come in, given her shift in approach. However, by the time that's resolved in fall town meeting this year, the cost structure will most likely be put in place that consumes that 291. So we as a town will have a problem, not just the schools. So I would like to propose an amendment or a change, that was the correct word, to that line, and that we would take the $291,000 out of that line and move it into the stabilization fund. So it's available, if it's available, come town meeting in the fall, it can be moved back into the schools. If it's not available, the schools have not presumed it, put cost structure in place that can't really be supported without having something that's maybe.
So you're making that as an amendment?
I am making that as an amendment.
Okay. And can you tell us what line it is, just so we make sure we're clear up here?
It's 79.
79, okay. So there's a proposed amendment on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All right. So tell us again, I think you've said it, but tell us again why what your proposal is or what your thought is on the amendment.
So my proposal is to take the money that is not yet identified, the $291,000, move it from the school line item, which is into the stabilization fund. So it is available, it's still available, it's in the budget, but can be moved back into schools if it really comes to fruition. If it doesn't come to fruition, then the school manages to what's approved at the time.
So the amendment's on the floor, so we're going to vote on the amendment in a few moments, but you can still talk in general about the school potential. Young lady.
My name is Sarah Hammer. I live at 304 Lancaster Ave. And I would like to know, for voting on this amendment, that would impact the school plan as previously discussed.
Why don't we ask Ms. Thomas how that amendment impacts the plan?
This particular approach, we've been working with the town manager on for the last several months, and as school superintendent and the responsibility for managing that budget stops with me. And so we have a plan in place in terms of how we're sequencing, adding any of the new positions, and bringing in those costs to pace it according to where we are with the state budget and getting final confirmation. So we are making sure that we're not taking on too many costs without having that bottom line there. However, doing it now and planning for it and pacing it when we have those assurances at the beginning of the year on July 1, rather than needing to wait to hire important additional teachers for our district until November is problematic for us. So we will continue to manage to the budget that's appropriated. We will continue to watch the state budget, and we will pace our new hires as well as any other expenditures to ensure that we, as has been indicated, are not coming back for additional money because of what we know now relative to these expenditures. We're not going to rush out and fill all these positions before we have a good idea of what that final state budget is.
Mr. Alonso.
Just want to speak to the technical part of the amendment. That if we move some, first of all, I don't even know within the budget can we move something into the stabilization fund? That's number one. But number two is, if we do allow something to move into the stabilization fund, this becomes not a simple majority vote, but a 2/3 vote. So it changes the whole dynamic of the budget vote itself. So just two technical things.
Ms. Benson?
Thank you, Jennifer Benson, 1010 Flat Hill Road. I just thought, since we are talking about the House budget, I might be able to shed some light on that process.
Please.
So it was with a lot of work that the House increased the budget for Chapter 17 related education aid. I will say that that was done in conjunction on some level with the Senate. So I feel fairly confident. If you want to do a risk-benefit analysis of this question, I feel very confident that that will be held through to the final budget process in July. My only concern, and I think it's also highly unlikely, that the governor could choose to do a line item veto and change that number. But I believe from a political perspective, often there are a couple of areas of budget that are considered very important and are the last to be touched. And one is local aid and one is Chapter 78. So I think I feel fairly confident that this will be the number. My concern is, in having a child in the schools and having been a former school committee member, I know how difficult it is to start the school year with ambiguity around what your figure will be. If you're looking at adding a third grade teacher, for example, you can't add that partway through the school year. You either start with that classroom or you don't. So my feeling is I will be voting against the amendment and voting for the underlying budget as it's written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Madden, 26 Fourth Circle. I'm also the assistant chair of the school building committee, school committee. Sorry. And I wear a couple hats. I'm standing in opposition to the amendment. This is a process that is managed by the superintendent and is overseen by the school committee. And I can assure everyone in the audience, the school committee is not going to be spending money that they don't have and coming back to the town. This is a matter of public trust between all of you and the school committee, and I can assure you that we would never abuse that public trust. And I urge you to vote against it. Thank you.
Jim Augie, 4206 Carousel Lane. Could I have somebody expand on what the consequences to our budget is if we accept the motion? What happens to where the money's going to be coming from? How does that affect the budget?
If I understand the question correctly, I think what Mr. Alonso said previously is potentially the consequence. That if the money, this additional money is put into the stabilization fund, it's still appropriated, but the requirement to move it from the stabilization fund back out and into the budget requires a 2/3 majority versus a simple majority.
Not knowing that level.
Just give us your name and
Oh,
address.
Carla.
We're recording.
50 Sunset Lane. Just not knowing the intricacies of the financial management of the government, I picked the stabilization fund. There's nothing unique about it. If there's a better place to put it that's easier, under the finance committee, or if there's a better place to put it, I would be happy to amend the motion.
Okay, you want to make an amendment and we'll see if the second word is. So what's your amendment?
I guess I'm asking the question, where would be a better place to put the money that would be easier to pull back and reallocate back to the school?
So the only other place to put it is in another appropriated line. If it's put into the finance committee has a salary reserve account. It can only be used for unforeseen expenditures. So if it was put there to park, to hold, so that it wouldn't be spent, it would then need to come back to town meeting in the fall to be reappropriated, because the finance committee would not have the authority to move that money for, or to spend that for unforeseen or non-emergency expenditures.
Mr. Marbury? If I could, I think most my uncertainties and discomfort have been somewhat addressed. Unless there's some objection, which I doubt. Based on the reassurances that I've heard from the superintendent and the school committee, I would take those, that the school will manage to not put a cost structure in place that absolutely requires that funding, and will not come back to the town for additional funding. Based on those assurances and commitments that I've heard, I would withdraw my motion.
Will the second withdraw the second?
Second.
Anything else on this budget article? Seeing no one else at the mic, well, let's withdraw, so we're all set with that. So on the article then, as presented by town manager, for a total of $33,802,328. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 16, Ms. Luck, salary administration.
I move that the town vote to replace the current salary schedule in Article 15, Salary Administration Plan of the General Bylaws, with the salary schedule printed in the warrant, which authorizes a cost of living of 2% for fiscal year 2017 for permanent employees not covered by a collective bargaining unit agreement or individual contract, and to authorize a 2% COLA for fiscal years 2018 and 2019.
Is there a second? Thank you. Selectmen, your recommendation?
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Finance?
We recommend approval.
Ms. Luck, are we going to have a presentation?
Scott Chase, Chair of the Personnel Committee, will make a brief presentation.
Oh, you said brief. Mr. Chase, go right ahead.
I'm done.
Done.
Easily 1/16 of the budget conversation. First off, the Personnel Committee is also looking for more volunteers. We have 3 spots available, 2 spots available. As many as we can get in, that would be great. On top, so what do? So the salary administration plan covers all town employees who are not covered under a collective bargaining agreement. And their compensation grid, the salary grid, has not been reviewed or updated since 2010. And so what we're here asking, what we're recommending as a personnel committee, is that we implement a 2% COLA in 2017, 18, and 19, which results in an estimated $14,000 for fiscal year 17. And so we're recommending that we provide an amendment to the salary administration plan for a 2% COLA for 17, 18, and 19. Is that brief enough?
It is. Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing no one at the mic, oh, here we come.
Ed Littlejohn, 87 Old Farm Road. I'd just like to understand, is this in the budget that we just passed, or is this additional to it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
Seeing no one else at the microphone, then we're ready to vote. Article 16, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 17, by the way, thank you, Mr. Chase. Article 17, Mr. Toll.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $99,851 to be transferred to the stabilization fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Finance Committee?
We recommend approval.
Thank you. And just so folks know, we talked about this a minute ago with Mr. Luck. Anything to do with stabilization is going to require 2/3 votes. Okay, is there going to be a presentation?
Just a note, this is additional amount needed to be deposited into the stabilization fund in order to maintain the 5% balance as required by the town's financial policy.
Any questions, concerns about Article 17? Seeing no one at the microphone, declare we're ready to vote. All those in favor, 2/3 needed, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 18, Mr. Eversole, the Yellow Bag Program.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate from solid waste disposal enterprise revenues the sum of $275,000 to operate the solid waste disposal program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen, your recommendation?
Selectmen recommend approval.
Finance?
We recommend approval.
Someone going to tell us about the article? Ms. LaFleur?
Sure. Our solid waste recycling program has three components. We have a recycling program that is part of our general fund budget that was approved in Article 15. We have solid waste and recycling that is available to the municipal buildings. That's part of the general fund budget that was part of Article 15. What is before you under Article 18 is the pay-per-throw program. So we have one contract with Casella Waste Services. This vendor handles both the pay-per-throw program and the recycling program. We negotiated a 10-year contract with town meeting's approval back in fiscal 12 at a significant cost savings. The budget for fiscal 17 for this program is $275,000. We're not proposing any increase in bag price. The enterprise fund pays the full cost of this program. The appropriation is $10,000 higher than in the current fiscal year and prior fiscal years to account for some projected growth within the program, but again, there's no proposed increase in bag costs for the current, for fiscal 17.
Anyone questions, comments, concerns about Article 18? Hearing no one at the microphone, declare we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Article 18, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Article 19, Ms. Luck, the Water Department.
I move that the town vote to appropriate from water enterprise revenues the sum of $25,000 to operate the water department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen, your recommendation.
Selectmen recommend approval.
Finance Committee.
We recommend approval.
And as I say every year, this is the Water Department, this is not the Water District. Mr. Fleur, anything on this?
Just to mention that this is an enterprise fund, so it is self-supporting. The town of Lunenburg has a water department that has 3 customers. We actually have 5 customers. This covers the area around Tri-Town Landing, the immediate area there, mostly commercial. And the appropriation for the fiscal budget for 17 is $25,000, and this is to cover any administrative costs or any maintenance needs of the water department during the fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, issues with this article? Seeing no one at the microphone, declare we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Article 19, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Next 3 articles deal with the Sewer Commission and Mr. Luck. Mr. Luck, will your presentations, your slides deal with all 3 or one at a time? How are you doing?
One at a time would be.
One at a time. I know we're going to vote one at a time. I'm talking about your presentation.
I think that still one at a time.
One at a time. Go right ahead.
So, I move the town vote to appropriate from sewer enterprise revenues the sum of $659,044.28 and appropriate from sewer enterprise retained earnings the sum of $77,197.72 for a total appropriation of $736,242 to operate the sewer enterprise fund for FY17. And further, that $912,291.76 be included in appropriations from the general fund for indirect costs and be allocated to the sewer enterprise fund.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Selectmen, your recommendation.
The selectmen recommend approval.
Finance Committee.
We recommend approval.
Mr. Luck, tell us about your article.
Okay, this again is an enterprise fund, so it's a self-funding operation that serves roughly half the town in the sewer service area. Key notes in the operating budget are that the John Fitch Highway upgrade costs are included in the budget. This is our share of upgrade costs at John Fitch in order to get more capacity from Pittsburgh. The inflow and infiltration fee, this is a cost that was essentially flowed down to us from the state through Leominster, who we have an IMA with. And this requires us to accumulate funds in order to reduce the introduction of clean water into our system. So those projected incomes, which are from connections, are assumed at $13,200, and within the budget assumed to be used to offset the projected cost of $30,000 to actually go try to reduce those I&I events. On the capacity fee, we have a capacity fee again that is incorporated at the time of new connections, and this is to cover costs that we owe, for instance, today on the John Fitch Highway parade, and in the future when we need more capacity, we for sure are going to have to pay for it. So this is a fund that is established last year and will be used to buy additional capacity. We also included the assumption here, this budget indicates that we'll have a positive cash flow based on current rates, no rate increases, but we will have a positive cash flow of $78,144. That will help us offset betterment payments. As a result of the entire budget, we are expecting we've had a retained earnings as of the certified 10/13/15 date of $1,239,995 cents in our retained earnings, so essentially impact. This is important because this is our source of any funding should we need a cash outlay for capital expense or repair of pumps. Our pipes are really quite new, so we're not expecting costs there, but we have very expensive pump stations, 10 of them. So that $1.2 million is available for those kinds of expenses. So this is the, read it all. This is the key of the expenses. I'll give you the key numbers. This next year in 17, we're projecting that our total expenses will actually be down about 8%. This is because we expect to pay less to Pittsburgh, and we also one of the events you'll hear about later is we did a comprehensive wastewater plan update this year, so that's in last year's expenses. So expenses are going down for the operation. We've also assumed a reduction in revenue because we are sending less water to Pittsburgh than we had projected, so we reflected that in the budget. So our revenues of what we charge our customers will also be. Again, that results in a net positive cash flow. We do have a deficit on the betterment side. We also have the betterment that was done back in 2002-03 timeframe. Because a number of the people paid the betterment off right away, as opposed to spreading over 20 years. But our loans are spread over 20 years. It looks like we have a negative. We have less betterment revenue each year than we have payments. But the money that was paid up front is in the bank, so we draw on that, and that's part of where that $1.2 million came from. We projected that debt and revenue projection out for the betterments, including the ongoing betterments, out through 2047. We projected out, and we continue to have a positive retained earnings throughout the entire period.
Excellent. Article 20, sewer budget. Anyone rising to the microphone? See anyone? Declare we're ready to vote on the sewer budget. Article 20, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Article 21, Mr. Luck.
I move that the town vote to create an inflow and infiltration or I&I stabilization fund, and further to transfer from the sewer enterprise retained earnings the sum of $14,520 into the I&I inflow and infiltration stabilization fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen, your recommendation.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Finance Committee.
FinCom recommends approval.
Thank you. Again, stabilization requires 2/3. Mr. Luck, tell us about Article 21.
As I said, we need to address our I&I flow because it costs us money and it's sending good water out to the ocean, so it's not environmentally sound either. So we, at the time of connection, we have instituted a $2 per gallon fee. This is already being implemented, and that is, again, to pay up, to help fund our efforts, which is running about $30,000 a year. We do not and have not sorry about that. So we've collected less than in the prior years. We've collected less on the I&I fee than we spent on I&I in the same year. So there has been no need to carry over any money. This year, due to a timing issue, we had a pretty extensive, this year's effort was to look at all of our manholes, our over 350 manholes in town, and to see where we can find additional water coming in perhaps through manholes. That effort is just being completed now, so we're not able to spend the money we had set aside to go fix the problems found, and there have been problems found, so that's good news. We will reduce I&I. But because of that, we will not be able to spend the money we have collected this year in this year. It's a timing issue, and I don't expect it to happen going forward, but right now we need to establish a place to put that money so that we can carry it forward and keep it earmarked for this effort.
Any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Luck? Article 21, creating a new stabilization fund. Stabilization requires 2/3. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Stay right there, Mr. Luck. You're on the roll. 22.
I move that the town vote to transfer from the sewer enterprise retained earnings the sum of $9,667.90 into the reserve capacity stabilization fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen, your recommendation.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Finance Committee.
We recommend approval.
Again, stabilization, 2/3 majority. What about this article, Mr. Luck?
There's no presentation. This is this fund we set up at last year's town meeting. These monies that are coming in will continue to accumulate until we have to start paying Fitchburg, which hasn't started happening yet, or buy additional. So this is just adding what we've collected this year through connection into this fund.
We're voting on Article 22, although Article 21 is on the board. Over here we got Article 22. That's all right. Any questions about Article 22? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Article 23, sorry, Mr. Luck, we're moving on. Ms. Burgess.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $48,402.09, the premium paid to the town upon the sale of bonds or notes issued for the construction of a new middle school, high school, which are the subject of the Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion, to pay the cost of the project being financed by such bonds or notes, and to reduce the amount authorized to be borrowed for such project, but not yet issued by the town by the same amount.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectmen, your recommendation.
Board of Selectmen recommends approval.
Finance Committee.
We recommend approval.
Article 23, we'll have a presentation, Ms. LaFleur.
Just one minute, just to remind this body, we've done this previously at the Article 1 special town meeting of January 7th, or no, this was originally approved January 7th, 2014. Once before, we have asked the town meeting to rescind the bond, the amount of the bond premiums. The previous time when we rescinded was $105,975.36. So all we're doing is we're reducing the initial debt exclusion by the amount of the bond premium because we're using the proceeds of the bond premium to pay construction costs rather than to finance that over the life of the bond.
Questions about Article 23? Seeing no one at the microphone, ready to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. We are doing such good work. Article 24.
Moderator,
Steve Russell.
I move that the town vote to accept Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 3/4, which established a special revenue fund known as the Public Educational Governmental PEG Access and Cable-Related Fund to reserve cable franchise fees and other cable-related revenues for appropriation to support PEG's access services and oversight and renewal of the cable franchise agreement. The fund to begin operation for fiscal year 2017, which begins July 1st, 2016, and further to transfer the balance in the existing PEG access fund as of June 30th, 2016 to this newly established fund.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Selectman, your recommendation?
Selectmen recommend approval.
Finance Committee?
We recommend approval.
Thank you. Someone going to make a presentation? My note says Ms. Brochu was going to make a presentation. Excellent.
All that this article allows us to do is, we received guidance from the Department of Revenue in February of 2016 that we would have to establish this fund under Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half. We currently do have a cable fund established per our town bylaw, but we have to make this change according to guidance from the DOR in order to be able to maintain the fund and not have the existing balance in the fund close out at year end. So all that this is doing is establishing the fund, and the next article is appropriating the dollars for the 2017 budget of the PAC committee.
Short and sweet. Sir?
Troy Daniel, 94 Main Street. Just for a point of clarification, are we voting and passing 53F and a half and 53F and 3/4?
Oh, no, it's 53F and 3/4, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Vicki and the quarter is Wilson County retirement.
Anyone else on Article 24 establishing the new PEG fund? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Article 25. Now you're up.
I'm stepping in for the chair of the Public Access Cable Committee, who is able to be here today. I move that the town vote to appropriate. I move that the town vote to appropriate from the Public Educational Government PEG Access and Cable-Related Fund revenues the sum of $74,030.76 to fund the 2017 PEG Access Committee operating budget.
Is there a second? Second. Selectman, your recommendation.
Selectmen recommend approval.
Finance Committee?
FinCom recommends approval.
Thank you. Tell us about the article.
Just quickly to go over the public access was established several years ago, and a couple of years ago we adopted a bylaw that provided that the public access should come to town meeting and through the budget process. So the last article and this article are fully implementing that process. So the public access deals with the local cable that comes through Comcast at the moment. And we have 2 channels, but we do not have an educational channel at the moment. So the Public Access Committee has worked to establish goals. It also looked at those to support the renegotiation of the contract with Comcast. The important part is to provide information to the community, provide equipment for people to borrow, to allow the various departments to be televised, and to make sure that the programming is done in a way that supports what the town is looking for. We're also looking to engage students to try to support the program and to give additional capacity to the students. So technically, they're looking, as was discussed, about the Passio School that we'll be talking about in the future. That's where they're located at the moment. They're talking about trying to have a full-function studio, whether there's ability to have high-definition services, making sure that the mobile cameras are easy to use by people who want to check them out, and to get a third channel for an educational channel and to work with the schools on that. There is one employee who reports to the town manager, and the Public Access Cable Commission is an accident advisory role working on policy. The only income is what happens with Comcast franchise fees. So all of us who have Comcast as service in Lunenburg, a portion of that monthly fee is given back to the town through public access. So we have the revenue fund that was just voted. The amount that comes in is what's available to be spent. The town does not contribute anything towards the public access budget. So between the staffing, there's purchase of services for people to possibly do some of the filming when the staff cannot do it, purchase of equipment, and the other fringes that would cover the employees' staff at this point. That's the presentation.
Chaplain?
Mr. Moderator, Mike Chaplain, 208 Huntsville Road. I really don't have a comment about this, but I would like to be recognized when this article is voted on.
Any questions, comments, issues with this budget? What'd you say? Closer to the mic.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just asked that I be recognized after this vote is taken, before we take up Article 26.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, Barry Jewell, 20 Sunset Lane. I just would be curious, this is so dependent upon and so locked into Comcast support. In the past, when the franchise renewal has come up, I know I've spoken to wishing that we had more competition in Lunenburg. So even though we talk about, there being no cost to the town, there really is, indirectly, or perhaps there is, I guess, a cost in the sense that we don't have competition and we don't have a choice as to who we might have for cable service. The question really is, has the committee or anyone taken a look at what other towns that do have competition, have in the way of fees for cable service versus what Lunenburg has? And it would seem to me that Comcast would be willing to pay for these stations anyway, because that would give them a competitive advantage with the citizens of Lunenburg who want to have those services. And I think in other towns where other services are available, the public access is carried on both channels. But I'm just curious if this has been looked at in any detail, or if anybody thinks about it besides me. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a quick shot and hand it over to Mr. Alonso, who we are currently in the middle of starting the negotiation process to get the next cable contract. Ask Mr. Alonso to report on those processes.
Sure. So I'll address the first point about lack of competition. I assure everybody here the lack of competition is in no way obstructed by the town. We have a non-exclusive agreement with Comcast, and then should Verizon, in fact, some of the fringe areas of Lunenburg are covered by Verizon and Fios. If they want to come in town, we would entertain that. We don't approach people or not approach people, but there's nothing restricting competition except for the business plans of the companies involved. So that's point number one. Point number two, as far as fees, we're working as chair of the Cable Advisory Committee, working with the next franchise 10-year contract with Comcast, and working with our town council. We're assured that the fees that are being applied here are very similar to fees in all towns. The structure is very much the same. They might vary by cents or up to $1 per user, but in part, they're all kind of consistent across the Commonwealth. That's my information from our town council, who's advising us on the renegotiation progress for the next contract.
And the negotiating process involves the Public Access Cable Committee developing a business plan of what it would like to have over the next 10 years, including stations, mobile devices, other things like that. And part of the ask to Comcast, they are the one that will probably be coming before us, that Mr. Alonso talked about, what they can give us as an upfront amount in addition to the yearly fees. So all the comments are being taken into context during the negotiation process.
And I'll bet they have a vacancy on the committee.
As it is, Mr. Moderator, we do.
Lucky guess.
So maybe the speaker who just talked would like to volunteer.
Anyone else on Article 25? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Mr. Chapdelaine, you ask to be recognized.
Mr. Moderator?
Just give us your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mike Chapdelaine, 208 Leominster Road. I move that the town meeting take Article 45 out of order now, and then move on with the town meeting as printed in our warrant. And on a personal note, if we do agree to do this,
Let's get to that.
Okay.
Let's get it personal. So you move that Article 45 is taken out of order, taken at this time.
correct.
Second.
There's a second. So when I had said to the body when I first in the meeting, that I'm going to click it out because I'm the moderator for the one thing. At this point in time, I will tell them one thing, which we pointed at, ratified.
Again, my name is Thomas Clark.
You're not on time.
He's on, but he's not close.
What? My name is Tom Bodkin.
Hold it closer.
My name is Tom Bodkin. I'm going to get a deputy moderator. And the matter before us now is take this article out of order. I believe that's a simple majority vote. Moved and seconded. So all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Unless there's some discussion. All those opposed?
No.
The motion passes, and so we're going to take up Article 45. Article 45, Mr. Lambert, I think you're...
Yes, I will. I'm just waiting for the screen to be updated. All right, it's done. I move that the town vote to establish a study committee for the purpose of investigating the feasibility as well as costs and benefits of having the Lunenburg Water District become a town department and to establish transition milestones. Said committee to report back with its recommendations no later than the 2017 annual town meeting.
Is there a second? Who'd like to give the presentation?
Well, before we begin, I want to offer an amendment to the article that was just decided upon by the Board of Selectmen with Town Council in the last couple of days. And the amendment is as follows. We would like to strike the second sentence from the article and replace it with the following, just to be more clear. Said committee is to be comprised of 5 members as follows. 2 members to be appointed by the Lunenburg Water District Board of Water Commissioners, 2 members to be appointed by the Lunenburg Board of Selectmen, and 1 member of the Lunenburg Finance Committee selected by it. A copy of this committee's report is to be provided to both the Lunenburg Board of Selectmen and the Lunenburg Water District Board of Water Commissioners 30 days prior to presentation to town meeting in 2017.
Second. Okay, a motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion?
This is about the amendment, right?
This is on the amendment. The amendment would be also a simple majority. I see one person at the microphone. Would you like to speak to the amendment, sir?
No, I'll speak just after the amendment, please.
Excuse me?
I'll say something just after the amendment, I can do that.
Okay. You're not going to speak on the amendment. Although, unless there's anybody else who would like to speak on the amendment, I see nobody rising. All those who are in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
The amendment carries. So we're back to the article with the amendment, and I believe we're at the point of the presentation.
So this article, first and foremost, is to create a study committee, as is clearly stated in the article, to see if the town and its residents want the water district to fall under the umbrella of town as a town department. It is not asking for that decision, just the creation of the study committee to look into and investigate the feasibility of such a proposal. The impetus behind this is twofold. One is for organizational purposes solely, that as a separate municipal entity, it occupies a parallel part of town that is in no way part of this body or this town meeting, where every other department from school, fire, police, DPW, sewer department, everything else falls under the town and the oversight of this town meeting. That is a parallel municipal entity that has its own elections, its own annual meetings, etc. And it seems to me to be organizationally responsible to put that under the town as everything else would. And one of the examples I would give is if there wasn't already a water district and we were to create one today, I would find it highly unlikely that we would pursue the path of a separate municipal entity, and it would be done under the town. So that's the organizational part of it that's being proposed, or why we're looking for the study. The other one is for increased public involvement, increased public participation, increased public awareness, increase in public visibility, and voter enfranchisement of those areas of town that do not have a vote in the water district, because the water district as a district covers only 70% of the town, and therefore people who live in the outlying 30% have no say in what the water district decisions are being made. And there are many, given the years, the events of this past year, who believe that what happens with water and where water goes should be a decision that all of us as a unified town make, and not just people who are selected in certain areas. As items come up for comment, Mr. Moderator, I'd be more than happy to address them, but that is the basic overall intent of this article, is to study this and see if the town residents feel that this is an appropriate study committee item.
Okay, do we have any recommendations from the
The selectmen 4-1 recommend approval.
Finance Committee?
We see no direct financial impact as it's just a study, volunteer committee.
See Mr. Chapdelaine, is that the mic?
Mr. Moderator, Mike Chapdelaine, 208 Munster Road. I was asked just a few minutes ago to take this article out of order from the town warrant, and I agreed to do it. And I did say something about a personal matter. And all I'm asking is that I don't like taking things out of order, but I think that this is a pretty important measure. All I'm asking is that when this is all done, we take our vote, yea or nay, and we don't have a mass exodus of the town meeting, and that we stay and see this town meeting to the end. Thank you.
I second that.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against?
My name is Mark Bursch, I'm the chairman of the Board of Water Commissioners. I agree with Mr. Chapdelaine, and I'll stick around for the rest of the town meeting. I think it's important that the town people understand the board's position on this. I myself have been in Lunenburg my whole life, 45 years. I've owned a business for 20 years in the town. I've been in service of the community for over 26 years on the Lunenburg Fire Department, and I've been a commissioner for the water district for 7 years. For those of you that don't know me, I think you'll have around before. The water district was established in 1939. And since then, there's been a fiscally responsible department. We service all of the water takers in effective, efficient manner. When it comes to voting and having our meetings, those are also done in an efficient manner. When you take into account some of our meetings are a little small, but you look at our budget comparable to the town's budget and what we're discussing today, the number of people that vote on our water district budget exceeds the amount of people that vote on the town budget. I also wanted to bring to the point that the employees are either have ties to the town or are all Lunenburg residents themselves. They take great pride in their work. Our superintendent has over 30 years into the water district, and I don't think it's any stretch to say that it's his life. It's not his job. And as a chairman of the Board of Commissioners, we do not support this article, nor do the employees of the water district. We feel that it is a very well-run department and that the employees do a good job. Thank you. Mrs. Fairmore?
Mr. Moderator, Paula Fairmore, 2 Pleasant Street, Lunenburg. I echo Mr. Birch's sentiments. I don't think the town of Lunenburg is a TD Bank or a Staples or anything else that wants to overtake another fine department, physically managed for the takeover of their funds. We all know that the water department has made a ton of money. They reinvest their money into the town water system, and I vote against this. Secondly, contrary to Mr. Alonso's statements, I don't have the right to vote on anything in Townsend, Pepperell, Shirley, Fitchburg, Leominster, because I live in Lunenburg and I'm in the water area. Nor do I think the rest of the town who are on wells should have that permission. We are an area, we support the water department, and they have been more than excellent in keeping us up with notices as to the percentage of whatever mineral, whatever problem is in our water, and they take care of it immediately. Thank you very much.
Mr. Berkeley? Yes, Moderator, Dave Property, 33 West Street. I echo Mr. Beardmore's sentiments, and I just want to say, if it ain't broke, don't break it.
I'd just like to address some of the previous speakers' comments in that, yes, it is an excellent water department, and two, we are not voting on whether or not the town should take over the water department. What we're voting on is a study. And I think that as a town, we ought to be able to take a look at where we are, where we need to be, what's working, what can we improve. I certainly believe that enfranchising people that are not within the district that are well owners is important. The water table is the water table. It doesn't exist within a boundary that we've created. So they have a stake in this, and they ought to have a vote as well. I also believe that in order to study this, we look at the benefits, we look at the downside, and we take a look. To say that everything's going great, don't fix it, says that the number of years of history we can't look back on and say, can we do this better? And I support this. Thank you.
Lisa Crowitz, 95 Southwest Road. I'm one of the 30% that is not allowed to vote as part of the Lunenburg Water District because I'm on a private well outside the district. However, the water district is called Lunenburg Water District, so it should encompass the entire town of Lunenburg. My well is most likely within an aquifer that's being serviced by the Lunenburg Water District. So I feel that that 30% that is not part of the water district should have a vote in how the water is used in the town or sent out of the town. This is not a vote against the water district, it's a vote to research
if all of Lunenburg should be incorporated into the district in the sense of having a vote. So I want to take it away from the fact that people are saying the water district is not doing a good job. This has nothing to do with whether they're doing a good job or not. I don't know if they are or not because I am not part of it. And I would like all of Lunenburg residents to have a vote on how the water is used in and around Lunenburg. So that's all I can say. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Norton. Good afternoon, Mr. Moderator. I just want to say a few items on this topic. One is, I'm a businessman, there's a lot of good business people here. As a lot of the speakers said, we can't dispute the fact that the water division is very good. But I also want to remember, I'm also a citizen of Bloomberg. One of the reasons why this all came to effect was because they wanted to extend our voting rights. That's where I was very upset. I don't want another town Bloomberg what to do. But the water department also has shown restraint. They're showing that they're making more communication. And I'd like to just propose, instead of doing the committees, that the chair of the water commission come to the board of selectmen twice a year, give updates, and let the public know what's going on in the division, just like all the other departments do. That would be my recommendation. But as far as bringing it into a town government, I don't have to vote no. So, thank you.
Carl, I could be Sunset Lane. You need to put full disclosure, and everyone knows I'm chairman of the sewer committee, so I have some additional knowledge and interest in this, as well as in the town review. But first, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge again that the water district, who we work closely with, certainly the governments and so forth, is doing a good job. And we have no issues with them, the management, the commission right now. And that's not what this is about. This is not about whether they're doing a good job or a bad job. This is about what's right for the town as a whole. And I'd also like to acknowledge and congratulate, quite frankly, Dave Rogers for his many years of service. And I have a very strong feeling that all of those 40-odd years is part of the reason that they are doing such a good job that he has brought to it. Unfortunately, he has decided to go into true retirement, so we've lost that skill there. But I thank Dave for all his efforts. So again, this is about a study. It's not about pulling it in and not pulling it in. And there are things that could be studied here that could go in either direction. But I would offer, based on my 9 years of history with the sewer department, that there is a piece of it that I would hope would be looked at in this study that could benefit everyone in town. And that would be the potential of, and I'll put it in this direction if it's more palatable, of if they were in the same municipality where that the sewer can get itself out of town, but to pull the sewer under the water district organization could be something that's very interesting to look at. The sewer commission a few years ago realized we're below critical mass. We had one employee who we were killing because you can't have 24/7. You can't have the kind of reliable, full-time, year-round, 24/7 support with one person. The water district has many people. So we had outsourced. We were pretty much forced to outsource. We didn't outsource because we weren't happy with working within the town. We outsourced because it was a necessity in order to get the capabilities we need. And we're spending $100,000 plus a year in outsourcing. I would be happy, and the sewer commission would be happy to support any study to take a hard look at that and how much of that $100,000 that is going to our users could be saved if we had the expertise that resides in the water district. I mean, they understand pipes, they understand pumps, they understand all the things, they understand the electronic control systems, and they use them very effectively. I think there's a tremendous possible opportunity there for the town overall to save money in both of those entities. So that would be one thing that I would hope that this study would look at, and we would certainly support that in any way we could from the sewer commission. Again, this is a study. One of the big things here that's a big difference is everybody getting a vote. This is really a town facility, and everyone getting a vote. I know I'm also a resident of Lake Shirley, and part of the comprehensive wastewater plan was if Lake Shirley is ever to get sewage, which may become important as we go forward regarding Lake Shirley is a level 5, it's a stressed lake because of nutrient load. So it's in the water, it's in the sewer service area because that could be one of the solutions to reducing nutrients. It's acknowledged pretty much that if you sewer Shirley, you really want to have public water because you don't want to be pumping Shirley's water through all these wells, pumping that lake out into the National River. So it would sort of come along with it. But the people around Lake Shirley, other than on Riverville Road, are not part of that water. We have no say in whether they come, the water district comes to us or not. There are other streets in Lunenburg that have tried to get into the water district who've had serious power problems while we're doing veterans, and they just haven't had a voice. It wasn't, contentious, they just don't have a voice. So getting everybody to have a voice, very much like the sewer commission. Sewer commission only serves in certain areas. But everybody in town gets to say, you passed our budget. So everybody in town gets to say, later to vote on our comprehensive wastewater plan. So those are things that you get by coming into town, and are worth doing a study to see if there are other factors that also make sense. All that said, I would like to make a motion, see if this applies, to amend the article, because I think this is a study. I think there's wording in the article that is sending a very strong and bad message, because this article, my understanding, will essentially become the charter for the study group. So I would like to make a motion to amend the proposed article to remove the words "and to establish transition milestones." I think that is presuming a conclusion and driving the commission in a certain direction that I don't think is intended. And I think it would potentially make the makeup of the board that you said quite contentious if that is one of their issues by charter. I would like to propose that we eliminate "and to establish transition milestones" from the article.
Okay. So we have an amendment. We have a motion to amend.
Second.
We have a second. Second. So Mr. Allen, if you could, as I take it, you want to delete the portion that states "and to establish transitional milestones"?
Yes, because that presumes the conclusion of the recommendation is to put it in the
Well,
budget.
before we get to the rationale, I just want to make sure we get the wording right. So, and to establish, so we're just going to delete that, that's your motion to, and to,
Yes,
to establish transitional milestones.
From "and" to the end of that sentence.
That's going to be crossed out.
That's the motion.
Okay, so the motion is made, motion to second. Do we have any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Moderator, speaking to the amendment that Mr. Locke proposed, I think that that should be defined. This is in fact a milestone. I've spent numerous hours trying to research mergers of districts and municipalities and/or takeovers, and have not found many, if any, successful. So this would indeed be a milestone. It is something that I have seen not done, not just within the Commonwealth, but across the country. Not in my research.
Now we're dealing with the amendment. Sir, would you like to speak to the amendment? Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the amendment? Hearing none, all those who are in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
I declare that the motion fails. Back to the original,
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to challenge that. I would like for a full recount.
In order for there to be a recount, there has to be 8 individuals that have to rise. So I believe we have 8 people. So, our counters, everybody that is in favor of the amendment to the article, please hold up your cards and we're going to have the counters go down and count. So these are all people that want the amendment to pass. Actually, if everybody could return to their seats, and then we're going to take it out. So everybody got up to the seat. You can get back in your original position when you get back up. You just sit down to make it easy for everybody. All the counters, if you come down to the front here. You have your counters.
Excuse me, moderator, we really can't hear you in the back, so could you try to
Sure, I'll try to
force
do
your
that.
speaking? Thank you so much.
So right now we're counting the votes. So we have 3 counters. Okay. So someone should take the middle line, someone take the side.
This is the vote on the amendment, is that correct?
That's correct. We're now voting on the amendment. Okay. And these are, you're holding your card up now, you're voting to pass the amendment to this article.
So, I had 2 counters on this side, right? I need the other counter up here, and I didn't realize when they asked the gentleman to be a counter, he works with the one. Maybe that's the I know you can count, so I need you to get to the count on this side. Count, you want to count? You not a count? No? Anybody who wants to count, come over here. We're going to count the set, okay? Sorry, let's just make sure we get the counting right. The people on that side, count the vote, count the state, okay?
Excuse me, moderator?
Yeah.
Mr. Moderator?
Tom?
Sorry, point of order. We're voting to accept, not accept the amendment, but to accept the change to the amendment, right? We're just, the wording, the change in the wording, so we're still voting on the amendment.
If you're holding your card up now, you're voting to amend the article.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. That's what I'm thinking.
I'm assuming that you voted to take out Bishop Lane. The mile. Striking out the mile. Yes, good.
On this section.
Mr. Moderator, we have 11 from this section.
11 on the right?
11 on the right.
Yes.
So can you hold them up?
Twenty-seven in the Senate.
Okay, now, all those that are opposed, please raise your card.
On the left.
17 on the left.
Yeah. Yeah.
48, I've only seen 7.
48 in center. 48.
Mr. Moderator, we have 26 on the left side here.
26 on the left.
Correct.
So I declare that the motion to amend has been defeated. 48 yes, 91 no. So we're back to the original motion. What? Oh. We're back to the original motion. Amendment exactly the original motion. Well, we're back. Exactly. The amendment is, the motion has already been amended twice. The second motion to amend has been defeated. Now we're back to the discussion on the original amended motion. Sir, please identify yourself.
I'm John Esposito, I live on Walters Road. I've been a water commissioner for 18 years. And the first thing I want to say is, I want to commend Mrs. Bertram on having the courage and the foresight to see what's going on here. And the second thing I want to say is, the Lunenburg Water District has 2 water tanks, one on Pope Road above the Walmart, and the second one on Sun Hill Road. The Pope Road tank is 2.8 million gallons. The one on Sunny Hill is 500,000 gallons. Now, every year the water district appropriates a sum of money to make sure that when the 20-year span comes up to pay for water tanks, that we have the money. Costs approximately $1 million to pay those tanks. Now, I feel if the town of Lunenburg takes over the water district, that money is not going to be available because it's going to go other places. So, and then they're going to come to the taxpayers because if you don't have water and you're not in the district, you're still going to cough up for the price of those water tanks. And what's going to happen, it's going to come right back to the taxpayers.
Ms. Littleback?
General Beck, 33 Lancaster. First of all, I'd like to echo the sentiment that the Water District has been doing a fine job. What I'm hearing is a lot of talk about this foregone conclusion that the town will take over the Water District. This motion is simply to study whether or not it's feasible to do so. I spent a better part of a career looking at business process improvement and better ways of doing things for businesses, and I don't see the harm in understanding, are there some synergies that can exist between the water district and the town? Are there benefits to be gained, or are things working better the way they are set up right now? I don't see the problem in having a volunteer organization to try to figure out, does this continue to make sense for the council of Lunenburg? Just because we've done something for 77 years doesn't mean that that's the way it has to always be. That's been in my career. Every time somebody said we've always done it this way, that was never a good enough excuse. So again, information is power, knowledge is power. What are we afraid of to understand whether or not it makes sense?
Sir, Mark Freeman, 338 Northfield Road. Over the years in town, I've lived both within and outside of the water district. And a couple things I think people need to understand. One is that the water district is established by the act of the legislature. It wasn't established by the town. And I'm not sure that the town has the authority to overtake it. But on the subject of, I guess, enfranchising other members in town who are outside of the water district, the water district can and has been expanded and changed, and the boundaries have been moved over the years. There's a process for that. So right now, the entity that controls that is the water district. If you are on a well and outside of the district and you desire to be within the district, then you shouldn't be appealing to town meeting for enfranchising the process. You should be appealing to the water district because that's the appropriate legal avenue to do that. It's been a number of years since I've actually read the bylaw or the law that established the district, but within that, my recollection is that if you're within the water district, whether or not you have water service, you could actually be subjected to taxation to cover fees that the district needs to, expenses the district needs to cover. That's historically always been covered by the user fees of people that are both within the district and consuming water from the district. But nonetheless, the provision is there. It's within the act that established them that you could be taxed to cover painting the water towers, or the water tanks, even if you didn't have water service. So from that standpoint, I'd say be careful what you wish for if you want to be part of the district. Now, on a more specific question, as far as process is concerned and whether this whole study is even worth pursuing, as I understand it from the people that have spoken on behalf of the water district, they don't want to be taken over. They're established by the legislature. So, Mr. Moderator, through the town council, what authority would the town have to make a hostile takeover of an entity legally established by the legislature and independent from the town?
I think the question really is the legality of what's going on here rather than in perspective. But the town council, if you want to chime in on it, I think the question is the legality of the hypothetical situation that the town would take over the water district.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joel Barr, Town Council. So just to the point the moderator just made, clearly what's before town meeting today is completely within the authority of town meeting and has to form a study committee. But to the gentleman's question, and as has been pointed out, the water district has been created by special act of the legislature, and it would take a further act of the legislature to change the district if some significant change were proposed, such as to make it a department of the town.
Thank you. And based on that response, I would say this is somewhat of a fool's errand and would encourage people to vote against this.
My name is Sarah. Can you hear me? My name is Sarah Kimmer. I live at 309 Lancaster Ave. I have certainly had my discussions with the water district in the past. I disagree with them about expanding the district. However, I'm really uncomfortable with the current composition as it stands. And the reason why is because I'm very concerned about this calling on volunteers to look into. If you look at the history of water and water treatment in the United States, almost every time there's a problem with public health and water districts, it occurs when there's a major transition in treatments, when there's a major transition in politics. And if you do want to transition it to a city-run program, I think we owe it to everybody's public health to have experts who have experience with working with water districts and working with municipalities to review it in its integrity.
defer to Ms. Bertram, if I may. Ms. Bertram.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I want to agree wholeheartedly with the prior speaker. One of the questions that I asked at one of the selectmen's meetings was there any funding mechanism associated with this article? Because to have a study by volunteers, I agree wholeheartedly, there are a number of issues that need to be addressed. There are a number of issues regarding personnel, regarding operations, regarding finances. And when we talk, a prior speaker talked about the feasibility of incorporating some of the sewer functions under the water district. I think that's well beyond the scope of volunteers. Additionally, this article concerns me because I don't think there are clear objectives. I don't think there's a clear reason. Personally, I believe the water district is well run. I think that this came up because of an issue of communication with water district members, and I think that the water commissioners are working very, very hard to expand their communication. They've adopted a Facebook page, their website has been updated. They are publishing things in the paper. I think the communication has greatly improved. I also think that as a town, we can work cooperatively without a study committee. I think that there are issues or concerns. I think that the Board of Selectmen and the Water District can work together. And I personally am not in support of this article because I think that it's not clearly defined what the objectives are, what the reasons are, and I think that we should do that before we bring this type of article to the town meeting.
Just as a point of information, the clerk just informed me she's now amended the article from its original form that was in your in the warrant that went back to your house. So just for informational purposes, Mr. Proctor.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, David Proctor, 733 West Street. I just want to reiterate, there's already a form of governance in place with the water district. And if you're worried about people being enfranchised, then the water district themselves should be able to include or expand their district to incorporate those people and to give them a voting right within the district. There should be some way for them to do that. I don't know, maybe Mr. Rush could correct me if I'm wrong. And I just find it disingenuous to just say, well, this is just a study that's going to establish transition milestones, since we've left it in there. I've got to go on record with saying that's a little silly, because it's right there. You clearly already have a foregone conclusion on your hands that you're going to push forward with something. Thank you.
Better?
Greg Bittner, 129 Pleasant Street. I'd like to say I am a satisfied customer of the water district. I serve on several boards and committees and towns, and I've been an advocate for more communication and working together. I'd say that even though it is a study, I'm not sure we can get an accurate information due to the fact that the participant is unhappy with it. I think it could lead to being as another speaker had said, considered a hostile takeover if the study comes up that they do want to bring it under the umbrella. And as another previous speaker had said, that we utilize the knowledge and the information from the members of the water district. I think that if it is taken under the umbrella of the town, we may have an exodus of the water department people, so we would not be able to rely on their information. Thank you.
Move the question.
Pardon me?
I think we should move the question to a vote.
Anything by way of motion of the point of order has to be made. Mr. Jewell.
Yes, this is Perry Jewell, 20 Sunset Lane. I am not currently, a member of the Water District, but I, periodically consider the processes that I know are in place to extend the Water District, and I think they do an excellent job running it as well. I think the kind of, we all know, and it's been alluded to, I think a couple of times here today, that the reason that this exists, this article, and then it continues to get softened a little bit each time, is that there was an incident this year where the Water District did want to extend, that is to say the board at least, was interested in extending the Water District to service an adjacent area of Lancaster. And I think that that's not necessarily an inappropriate thing in the utility businesses. If our sewer department didn't have Fitchburg and Leominster to treat our sewage, where would we be? I think it's not at all uncommon, especially in the utility areas. We want to get hydropower from Canada and New York, and solar power from Maine, et cetera. We talk about this as our water, when it's coming from a heating well that was put in by a private enterprise that then turned around and realized they had found more water than they could use, and really turned the operation over to the water district to then continue to sell to them, as well as have this excess. I think that, you know, we all work in this area. We used to work toward Pittsburgh's direction, now we work toward Boston. Worcester's directions, we have state highways that stop at the border. We don't have regional schools. You know, we like to think of ourselves as a little enclave, but the reality is that especially when it comes to utilities, we are in an interdependent economic area here. And to consider a water district that runs beyond Lunenburg is not at all unreasonable.
When I'm speaking in favor of this article, I've been attending a lot of the water district meetings recently, and the water district is currently in negotiations with the town of Lancaster to execute an intermunicipal agreement to send water from the lake, from the heating well to Lancaster. And they have had a recent ruling from their council, through the state council, state senate council, that they do not believe they need to go to the legislature to get approval to go outside of town. So right now, we had a meeting with the Lancaster, the Board of Selectmen, a meeting with the Lancaster Town Administrator, and he agreed that he would come back to the Board of Selectmen to have that communication. I'm not sure that's going to happen. With this article, what we're looking at is trying to figure out what the benefits would be if it was a town department. One of the things that I have not seen yet is a study of what Lunenburg water needs are for the future for Lunenburg's economic development. I'm fine with having water go outside for economic development. If the town of Lunenburg is going to get some benefit of that economic development in tax form, there are various special districts around the country that can do that. I'm not seeing that in this place. I'm concerned that you have a separate department that is charged with protecting water, and they protect it, but they're also charged with selling it in order to make money to cover its costs. I think that would continue to happen if it was a town department. Since 1939, the state of Massachusetts established the concept of enterprise fund. So therefore, when entities like this are established, the costs of the department stay within that department.
Mr. Rogers.
I would defer to our state representative.
Because he wants to get the last word.
Mr. and Mrs. Rogers had an idiot son. That's my brother.
Jennifer Benson, 1010 Flag Hill Road in Lunenburg. I actually did not come into the meeting with a strong opinion about this. I've read newspaper articles and some misinformation in the newspaper regarding to my part in any of this, which has been nothing. But coming in, I have to say, it has piqued my interest that there is so much opposition to simply asking the questions and gathering information. So for me, I've been doing this for long enough that is a red flag. And I'm sure the water district is very well run. I don't have any issues with the water district. I don't live in the water district. But when there's so much opposition to simply asking the question, because we're not talking about doing it, the debate is simply having a study. So if we think about since 1939 today, what has changed? Quite a bit, I would say. One is that the idea of water as an unlimited resource has changed dramatically. So we know, and we are not the only town having this discussion, Acton and Concord is fighting over water rights. Air has had issues over water rights, just right in this area. So the idea that water is a limitless resource is now no longer a viable assumption. So when we talk about keeping Lunenburg water in Lunenburg and letting the citizenry whether you are in the water district or not, at least be aware and have some say potentially in expansion. I think that is a reasonable thing to study. I don't have an opinion whether or not we should do it. I would like more information though. So, you know, my inclination at this point is to vote in favor of the amendment. I think that it is unfortunate that people feel threatened by that, and I think that the people who vote in favor of the amendment are not voting against the Water Commission. We are voting for gathering information. Also, another thing that has changed dramatically since 1939 and today is the idea of very small governmental agencies functioning independently. We just talked earlier about our emergency dispatch being regionalized and how that is helping Lunenburg regionalize a service. I agree with the previous speaker that potentially regionalizing and sharing some of this resource may be a viable option. But having multiple governmental agencies overlapping and coexisting doing similar work, like the Sewer Commission, seems a little like it would be worthwhile to see if there are ways that we can share some of these resources in order to save the ratepayers money, whether it's the sewer ratepayers or the water ratepayers. As neither one, you can pay all you want. I mean, I don't care. I don't have access to this resource. But I would think if I were paying for my water and paying for my sewer, I would like to have the information if my rates could potentially be lowered by sharing some of the administration or effort around these town departments. Then they are town departments, they're just not coexisting under the same umbrella. So, you know, I think there could be benefits to getting this information. It certainly doesn't hurt to have information. And I am concerned that people are feeling attacked, and I don't see it that way. I see it simply as, let's try to be the best stewards of our resources, whether that's financial or natural. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, for the record, for those that don't know, I spent 40 years as a water commissioner, so I have some background. And the first point I'd like to make is that the Lunenburg Board of Water Commissioners has never denied an application to expand the district. If you want to expand the district, all you have to do is come in and there's a procedure and it's voted, and I'm sure that the body politic would approve it. The reason that there's 30% that hasn't been extended is it's not really feasible financially to run water out there because we do expansions by betterments. Okay? To this representative's point about feeling threatened. How many people here feel threatened today? I don't, and I hope you don't. This is a discussion that is in contravention to editorial that was written by the chairman of the Sewer Commission in the latest edition of the Ledger, when it said, Article 45 is not a vote to make the water district part of the town. Of course it is. That's the crux of this issue. That's the whole reason that this thing is together, because the powers to be feel that they can do a better job than the Lunenburg Water District. Look at that. It says, appointing blah, 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 to establish transition milestones. That means that they come back and they tell you how they're going to take over the water district. Absolutely. So, you know, folks, let me just tell you, this is not an easy operation. Every person that works there is licensed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In terms of safeguards, as the representative alluded to, we've got to be careful. I couldn't agree more. And you know what? The Department of Environmental Protection is the entity that oversees the Lunenburg Water District and all other water purveyors. We can't do a thing without the DEP saying it's all right. So you talk about checks and balances. My God, it's every time you turn around, there's a new rule, a new regulation, a new way to do things. If you want to study something, get ready and study the wastewater treatment bill that's coming through from the federal and the state government. And at the same time, come down and make sure that you have plenty of money, because we're going to need it. We appropriated $25,000 for the water department, for the 5 areas, the 5 customers rather, that take water down near Donald's, that area. That works out to be $5,000 customer. If you take our operating budget for the Lunenburg Water District and divide it by the number of people that take the water, it's less than $500. I really don't want to get in the midst of things, but I'll tell you, I think the entity in the town of Lunenburg will be best served if the water district remains by itself and by their own admission. The selectmen have said, no complaints from the takers, no complaints from the fire department, no complaints from the police department, no complaints from the Lunenburg DPW, and certainly no complaints by the citizens. So if it's not broken, why do you want to reinvent the wheel? I hope that this is defeated and that the Lunenburg Water District remains as it is. Thank you.
That sounded like somebody who was threatened, by the way. If somebody's going to point to established transition milestones, I would urge them to raise their eyes 3 levels up and say, investigating the feasibility. Okay? That's the active verb in this whole article, investigate the feasibility of it. That's what this article was asked to do. Okay? I would come back to 2 points that I made at the beginning when I introduced the article, is if there was no water district today, how would you start the water district? Would you make it its own entity? Okay? That's question number 1 that I would ask people to ask themselves. The second thing is, we have approximately, if my last vote, when we did a tally, there's about 130 people here. Everybody here got something in the mail to tell you about this meeting, about all the articles, the budgets, the schools, the town, the sewer commission, the planning board, which we haven't gotten to. They were notified about every single one of these, and we've now had a discussion, I haven't clocked it, but probably over an hour now for this, okay? But last year's water district meeting, where they expanded the district into Lancaster, had 10 people, all of whom were related or working on this water district, and the whole meeting, including that article and 7 other articles, closed in 15 minutes, from 10 in the morning to 10:15. Look at the discussion we're having here. Look at the discussion we're having in the fall to rescind that vote. People care about what happens in town, but they need to know about what happens in town. They want to feel what happens when they're represented and their voices are heard and meetings are notified. These are all things that are important. This is not about how the water district gets water to your home, from my perspective. I'm a water taker. I think they do a great job. I said in a public meeting after public meeting. They do a great job of getting water to my house. But I want to know what happens behind the scenes at the water district. I want to be notified when those meetings are in more ways than in the Sentinel, which I don't receive. They don't publish in the Ledger. Having a Facebook page, that Mrs. Bertram said, that's not enough. That's not a public notice. That's social media. You know, so if you're okay with 10 people making these decisions to dilute votes in districts, then you should vote against this. But if you want to be represented, about what happens to resources in this town, like we do, Mr. Rogers mentioned the sewer department, about what happens with wastewater. Well, you know what? The whole town gets to vote whether or not you have sewer or not, whether you're in the sewer district or not, because it's a natural resource and it's a natural ecological issue that everyone should be involved in. That is the intent of this, And to my mind, regardless of what other people's opinion might be, this is clearly worded that it's not to have it addressed and brought into town. And by the way, not hostile takeover, because 70% of the town is covered in the district. So therefore, every water district voter is, by extension, a town voter. So there's no hostile takeover, they're the same people. There's a 70% overlap. And we're gonna ask both, if the study committee comes back saying, yes, it is feasible. If they come back and say, no, it's not feasible, then the issue is dead. And I don't have any preconceived notions about how it's gonna go, regardless of what some people heatedly think is going to happen. So again, if you want to be represented, if you think you should make decisions on what happens in your town, in all different regards, if you want to be notified, and you want to be heard, then you should vote for this. If that doesn't matter to you, then you should leave it as it is.
Sir, you got identify yourself?
Brian Blake, Lopez Road. The Lunenburg Water District has been working very well for the 36 years that I've been in town. I don't take water, but I'm in the district. I don't know why the town wants to get involved in that. If it's working, let it go. If you want to establish a committee to do something in town, establish a committee to look at encouraging more commercial businesses in town. Have a committee to study whether we can put a solar farm on the old landfill, that those people who cannot put solar on their roof could rent or buy a solar panel there and get the discount. There are plenty of other things for the selectmen and the town to do. You have the Department of Public Works, you have the fire department, police department, all sorts of other departments. The water district operates with 3 people in charge. That's all it needs. It doesn't need all the selectmen to get involved. If it wasn't for the fact that the water district found a water source that was more than Lunenburg could ever use, and decided to share that with a neighboring town, and in the process get money for the water district to do what it has to do without borrowing money, we wouldn't be here today. There was a cry that the water shouldn't go out of Lunenburg to somewhere else. Well, the folks who live in the sewer district know that their water doesn't stay in Lunenburg. And it's not as clean when it leaves Lunenburg as when it comes into Lunenburg. So I urge everybody to vote against this. This is, in my opinion, a waste of time, a waste of energy, and eventually it's going to be a waste of money.
Okay, Senator, a bunch of more for another cases, so
Mr. Moderator, are you requesting to move the question?
Okay, the motion to make the move the question, and that's been seconded. In order to do so, we need a 2/3 majority vote to do that. All those that are in favor of moving the question, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The question is not moved, and it's clear that the vote is ready to be taken. The motion as amended is before you, and all those who are in favor of it, please indicate by saying aye.